John Calipari, you freaking clown. John Calipari ran away from Kentucky, ran away from all the booze he was going to get for losing in the first round again because of his pride. And he's eating the big old $30 million buyout to go run away to Arkansas where he can get his hot seat reset. Will he even win at Arkansas? Who the heck knows? But we have to talk about this, Jeffrey.
Oh, it's absolutely crazy. It's so funny, too, because I had a video that was about to drop talking about whether I thought John Calipari was going to be going to Arkansas, and I said no in that potential video. I didn't see it happening. I didn't think in any world, I know this world's crazy these days, but I didn't think in any world would it make sense for John Calipari to leave Kentucky for the Arkansas job. I mean, Eric Musselman just left Arkansas for USC. We'll probably talk about that a little bit more later, but that's a downgrade going to USC from Arkansas. I mean, unbelievable. And now Calipari leaving Kentucky to go to Arkansas. He didn't take an NBA job. I thought it was a possibility that he would take an NBA job, one of those head coaching jobs one of these years. Finally would do that, or maybe he would just stick it out of Kentucky until they got sick of him or his buyout went low enough. But nope, that did not happen. He took a job that has history. We know Arkansas is not a bad program, but it's significantly lower than Kentucky. I just can't believe it. And Kentucky is free. They have no buyout anymore. $34 million, it's gone. Just wash their hands of the entire thing. I put on Twitter, I said, Kentucky equal Pontius Pilate. It's the exact same situation. And now Arkansas is giving him a 5-year deal according to sources. So I just don't understand this. I mean, I know he wasn't doing as well the last few years, and I guess you would say the Kentucky fandom, a lot of them had turned on Cal. But, I mean, when the Texas rumors happened a couple years ago, I just blew them off, didn't think anything of it, and it didn't happen. And when this just popped up tonight, I thought it was the same thing, but it's not.
Well, to look at the history of Mr. John Calipari, I have it up here. Obviously, he started off at UMass and built that program up.
And then they fell apart.
Fishy means.
Marcus Camby.
And then he went to the Nets, and that didn't work. And then he went to Memphis and got them rolling. And here is where he started doing the one and done.
Mm-hmm.
Back in those last couple years in Memphis, 2008, they choked, and I mean choked, the national championship away to Kansas, man. That was the first game I remember watching. He was like, oh, like he had his hand on his head. That was hilarious. And then he went to Kentucky. And Kentucky at this time, they fired Billy Gillispie.
Mm-hmm.
He was the Archie Miller of Kentucky. Not quite as bad. But people were laughing at Kentucky. And then suddenly they ended up getting that crazy recruiting class with John Wall and DeMarcus Cousins. And suddenly they love him. They love Cal. They fell in love with him. They got him back to being right at the top immediately, from the bottom to getting blown up by Florida to now being up there and of course winning the national championship with Anthony Davis. He never quite got up there. I mean, he had that undefeated season where the freaking refs robbed Notre Dame in 2015, that Elite Eight game.
Man, I remember that game. That's when I started getting into college basketball around that time. I remember that Notre Dame.
I was so mad at those refs, man. If I saw those refs, man, it would have gotten ugly. I would have gotten physical with the refs after that game, man.
It was kind of rough.
But then, after 2019, Kentucky wasn't the same Kentucky anymore. And I have a feeling, Jeffrey, that John Calipari is becoming the Dabo Sweeney of college basketball.
Ooh, that the thing that's crazy about that, Will, is that you talk about Dabo and the fact that he won't use the portal, which is why he's not winning in college football. But then with Calipari, like, he's embraced all of this newness, right? Like, he's the one that invigorated the one and done. You know, the portal, like, he's gone all in.
His best
sometimes
players are
before.
still freshmen, though. Like the guys that, like the Rob Dillinghams, like those are still going to be his calling cards, and those guys won't get it done in March when they're playing against all these guys. I mean, they're not going to be playing at like 24-year-olds anymore with the COVID period ending, but they're still going to be going up against seniors, and I just don't know if you can win with those players being your best players.
I mean, it's a great point. I think, you know, you have to embrace the portal, but you have to also be able to build a culture where guys are going to stay. And it's about getting a blend of guys that, like UConn, for example. I mean, you got Donovan Clingan, who came back, and you got Alex Caravan, who came back, and they're good players. And then you bring in Cam Spencer from Rutgers, who's like a fifth-year senior who got better over time and moved up the ranks in college. And then you had the five-star freshman in Stephon Castle. And then you had another experienced guard in Tristan Newton. It's like it's just a blend. Guys returning, guys transferring in, talented freshmen. That's the calling card. And then meshing it all together. Whereas, to your point, Kentucky, it's a bunch of freshmen, and then it might be one or maybe two transfers, kind of like he had Antonio Reeves and he had Trey Mitchell. That was it, though. Other than that, basically everybody else was freshmen. He had a Adu Thero. He was the freshman from the year before. He came back as a sophomore, but just not enough experience overall. And that's why I think a lot of people thought maybe Duke would, you know, do a little bit better because they had Jeremy Roach and Filipowski. And I mean, they did better.
They did a little better,
but they still didn't advance further than, you know, what Duke fans want. But yeah, it's a great point you made. I mean, because I remember when they won it all with Anthony Davis, I thought like, oh my goodness, they're just going to keep doing it year after year after year.
And the next year, man, I mean, that freshman class wasn't as strong with Nerlens Noel, and they lost in the NIT, first round of the NIT.
Yeah, so it's crazy. I mean, and ever since then, especially now with the portal, you know, like you said, it's just they're not as good anymore. And they've had good seasons. Like you see the record, 20-plus wins, but it's about advancing. And at the end of the day, at a program like Kentucky, you know, that's what they want. It's not even about winning. You can win 25 games, and if you lose in the first round, they don't care. It's absolutely unacceptable. I mean, you look at like Indiana, that used to be their standard, but now Indiana, it's just make the tournament, you know, like, can you just make the tournament? But Kentucky's not at that point. Making the tournament, that's not acceptable. It's advancing.
Maybe Mike McCarthy's a better example, like John Cal, because McCarthy has that one championship, and then it's all regular season system.
That is true. That's a great comparison. Clint Moses, appreciate you for stopping by, Clint. He says Cal is the Aaron Rodgers of college basketball, producing one and done NBA talent instead of now he's MVPs instead of Super Bowl rings. I love the comparisons, though. The thing I think's funny, and I'll just say this, Will, because I have one family member that really likes Kentucky, and they love, like, Calipari is like, he's the best coach in the world. There's nothing you can say to this said person, right? And I get it because it's the way it goes. I mean, when you have success and you're watching a team that you like and they're winning and winning and winning, and they have all these fun players to watch. I mean, all these talented guys that are going to end up being playing on your favorite NBA team as well. I mean, it's great stuff. And that's why, like, I get the hype. But I remember when I was younger and everyone, like the media, it's just everybody was saying John Calipari is like the best coach in college basketball. He's at least top 3. Like he's just fantastic. He won the title. He's bringing in all his talent. He gets all these players to the pros more than anybody else, even though now Duke's basically caught up with him in that regard. But you know what I'm saying? Like, you remember, I mean, he was that guy. Now everybody, including Kentucky fans and even some media members, Cal's not that good. And I just think that's funny because I felt like I kind of realized it a lot earlier than other people, or probably around 5, 6, 7 years ago, even way before I had my YouTube channel, way before I even started following college basketball really closely. I was like, I don't know. I just think he's overrated. I mean, it's not that he's awful, but he's not good either. There's just a lot of things that he has weaknesses on, like his in-game adjustments at times. Because I remember remember that one year when they had the blue platoon and the white platoon because the bench was just as good as the starters that one season? I remember when there were Kentucky fans, they were saying legitimately, Calipari's such a great coach. If the starting five's not giving it to him, he'll bench them all for the bench. And I'm like, yeah, he did that because he can. Well, now he can't. And if you noticed, when a guy wasn't playing well, did he bench Reed Shepherd for playing poorly in the tournament? No, he played a lot of that game. He didn't do anything, but he played a lot of that game. So Calipari, I'm not saying he was a fraud and that he was just garbage, but a lot of people overhyped this guy for so long. And now that college basketball's changed and he hasn't really changed with it, now the same people that said he was fantastic are now saying that he's not. And that's just a little hypocritical. I realized it a long time ago. I will admit, as a wee lad, I thought he was fantastic as well. But I was like 8, people now, I mean, it's just a lot of older people, just they thought he was great. Now they don't. I think it's just unfair to really say that he was ever elite and now he's bad. I think there's legitimate arguments both ways. I think that he's always been just an above average coach that brings in a ton of talent, but that just doesn't work as much anymore. I think that's as simple as it is. He never was elite, but he's never been poor. He just fits somewhere in the middle. And it's going to be interesting because now at Arkansas, I mean, it's going to be harder, right, to recruit. At Arkansas, I know they got money, but I don't know. To me, it still makes absolutely no sense. Whatever anybody thinks about Calipari, it makes absolutely no sense him leaving. It doesn't, because I don't know what Arkansas is paying him. I don't think the details have come out yet of how much money he's going to be making per year, but it just does not make any sense.
I mean, maybe he could still get the prospects to go to Arkansas, but I don't know, man. I don't know if that's the move.
But you're going to be facing Kentucky every year at Rupp a lot of seasons. I mean, why? I mean, to me, if I was Cal,
he's going to get booed. He knows if he goes back to Rupp, he's going to get booed. And I think it's just his pride. I think it's more his pride than anything.
But I mean, it doesn't make any sense though. I wouldn't do it. If I was Cal, which I'm not, but if I was, I would just be like, well, I'm either going to just stay at Kentucky, for the rest of my tenure, or I'm just going to quit. I'm just going to quit. I don't know. I wouldn't even really consider the NBA because he already did it. He already did the NBA experiment and it failed. I mean, he didn't have success. A lot of coaches, so many coaches, whether in college football and in college basketball, when they go to the pros, they don't win. And why do they not win? Because the rules are different. You have to have legitimately great talent to win in the NFL because all the teams have talent, but if you're on a poor team, if you're coaching a bad team, you're not going to win. I mean, look at Monty Williams. I mean, did you see it? You see his record at the Suns versus at the Pistons. Why is that? Because the Pistons don't have any good players. And the only ones that they do are really young. So you have to have a great team like Joe Mazzulla with the Celtics. I mean, no one's saying Joe Mazzulla is the best NBA coach, but they got a fantastic team. They got a lot of great players. I mean, college football, college basketball, you do have to have talent, but you still got to be a good coach. But, I mean, you can get away with it if you can just recruit a lot of guys like Cal has done for so long, but you still have to know how to coach in a way. But I don't know. College is different. And that's why I like Saban going pro. It didn't work either. But, yeah, Cal wouldn't make sense for him to go back to the pros, so he should have just stayed at Kentucky, in my opinion. I mean, do you think that that's what he should have done? He should have just stayed at Kentucky or retired? I think that should have been the logical scenarios, those two scenarios.
Well, I think this is what happened. This is my little theory. Cal, after losing to Oakland, AD came in, sat with him on the desk, because, if you don't make the finals four, we're going to fire you. And I just don't think Cal wants to get fired. I think he's like, I'm John Calipari. I'm one of the best of all time. I don't want to ever get fired. So I'm just going to leave.
I mean, but why so late, though? Because I will say that maybe that's true. You could be right. You absolutely could be right. And if that's the case, then this makes sense. But I don't understand why it didn't take longer, though. Or I guess you would say this search took a long time. The Arkansas search, they went through Chris Beard, they went through all these names. Was it all a ploy? Was it all like a facade? Cal was always the guy, because you're using your logic. He already knew he was getting fired. He already knew he was going to get fired, and obviously Cal's not going to want to get fired, right? He's not going to want that on his resume. I mean, I even said it in the video I was going to make with talking about this, whether he was going to go. And you look at Arkansas with Musselman going to USC. I believe that he thought there was legitimate job pressure at Arkansas. That's why he left. You look at, especially, we know Shaka Smart. There's no other explanation for him leaving Texas for Marquette. He knew he was gone. It was history. Mm-hmm. So a lot of coaches do this. Even Andy Enfield, USC, SMU, could have been the same way. So you could be right, but I just don't understand if that's the case. When the Arkansas job came open, why wasn't it just immediately announced? Why did it take all this time? And this came out of nowhere. And this is what's ironic. This news, I know some people were saying, I saw a couple people on Twitter saying there was rumblings of this a few days ago, but no one legit knew about this until like 4 or 5 hours ago. Like, it just came out of nowhere. So I don't know. I mean, you could be right. It makes sense. But
I think,
I don't know.
Okay, I thought of a theory. What if they wanted to do it right before the championship game? So this is all what everyone's talking about. Maybe Arkansas wants the attention.
Ooh, I mean, it's kind of like, do you remember when Tom Brady retired right when March Madness bracket came out that year? You remember that? And I was like, I mean, I have nothing against Tom Brady. Absolutely nothing against Tom Brady. But I know some people hate him, but I don't have anything against Tom Brady. But when that was announced, I was frustrated. I'm like, I want to enjoy my March Madness bracket reveal. We're talking about the selection. We're talking about the scenarios. And then breaking news, Tom Brady's retired. And I'm like, what? And the legitimately, the basketball crew was talking about that for like 30 minutes instead of talking about the bracket. And I'm like, are you kidding me? So you could be right. This was kind of a dead period. You notice that there wasn't really any big transfers being announced. There wasn't really any new coaching news, especially with the Arkansas search. So maybe that's true, because they definitely stole the limelight. People are going to be talking about this all tomorrow. I mean, legitimately, I bet you $1 million that during the championship game, it gets brought up. It's going to get brought up. They're going to talk about it. And I mean, why wouldn't they? Because Calipari, whether, again, people still think he's good or not, which most people probably don't anymore, he's still a top 10 coach. I mean, he's top 10 in wins and all that stuff. So based off that alone, he's top 10, but he's still a top 10 coach in basically everybody's mind. And him leaving a program like Kentucky, where he's been there for 15 years, won a title. Most people thought he'd stay there till he was done with coaching, to go to an inferior school. It's going to get talking. It's going to get talking points everywhere. Everybody's talking about it. I mean, they're like all over the internet right now. I mean, there's just like millions of people are probably still awake looking at this stuff. It's insane. So, I mean, you're probably right, Will. You probably are right, but it's still weird to me, though. I mean, because I know that we're not in that situation. Like, we're not coaches. But I'm telling you, man, if I was a coach, there's just no way that I would leave a job like Kentucky unless I got fired. I wouldn't. I would not leave. There's just no way. I mean, I know it looks bad if you get fired, but I mean, at the very worst, just push them out, right? I'd be like, you know what? If you want me gone, I'll take, I won't take the $34 million buyout. I'll take $10 million of it. I'll leave. But I'm not leaving like he just did. I'm not doing that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I believe that's probably what happened. Either that, or like he really was playing hardball negotiating with Arkansas.
Yeah, Harbaugh did the same thing, right, with Michigan. He said Harbaugh like that. It reminded me of Harbaugh when going to the Chargers. But, I mean, that made sense, though. I mean, he went from Michigan to the NFL, right? I mean, he didn't go to the NBA. I mean, it's insane. But I guess, I mean, it is what it is. John Calipari left. So, I mean, now that he's at Arkansas, like we kind of already touched on it a little bit, but, like, do you see this working out here? Because it's only a 5-year deal. Only a 5-year deal, which basically I think he had like 5 or 6 years left on his deal at Kentucky. Yeah. So, because it was like, I think he was making like $8 million a year. So his buyout was like $34 million. So it was in the 5 to 6 year range. So he's 65, which is why they gave him 5 years. But I mean, Arkansas had a losing season this year, 16-17. I mean, I'm still my brain's just trying to wrap my head around this. It is unbelievable. John Calipari at Arkansas. But like Clint Moses said boosters pay and run the sport. That's true, but I don't know. John Marzullo, appreciate you for being here. He says, what would you define as working out at Arkansas? Well, I mean, he's not going to win as much as he did at Kentucky and Arkansas. So
I would say a Final Four appearance.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Final Four appearance. I'm making the tournament every year. Like, he can't miss the tournament.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I know that he basically has never done that, hardly ever in his career. You know, he had the one bad year at Kentucky, but that was when there were no fans. But still, he can't miss the tournament, and he's got to make a couple deep runs. But see, he hasn't been doing that at Kentucky. He hasn't been doing that. So how is he going to do it at Arkansas?
Interesting.
Clint Moses said, Will and D may have a point. Kentucky AD walked in and said, you only get this amount of NIL. Oh, boy. Clint Moses also says post-game press conference after losses were getting old. Well, the thing is that a coach is allowed to say whatever he wants as long as you're winning. It's kind of like Indiana fans. They defend Bob Knight to the end because whatever he said, Indiana won, so it didn't matter. So when you take a coach like Mike Woodson now at Indiana, whatever he says, it just gets shredded apart. Because, like, well, you're not winning, Mike Woodson. You're not doing anything right. So, of course, they're not going to believe anything he has to say. So, when Calipari was winning, I mean, he basically said the same stuff back when he won a national title and back when he had the 38-0 record in the 2014-15 season before they lost to Wisconsin in the Final Four. I mean, he would say the same stuff back then, but no one cared because he was winning. Now that he's not winning at the rate that he was winning before, that's why him saying the same stuff gets old. That's why it's annoying because it just basically goes one ear out the other with everybody because it's like, well, you're not doing what you're saying. Every year you're going to turn this around, you're going to have success, and it wasn't happening. So now people don't believe him anymore. Like Dan Hurley's getting to the point now at UConn where whatever he says, people are going to believe him. Everything that he says, it's like, oh, he knows what he's doing. Did you even see the commentators during the game? They're like, Dan Hurley drew up this play. He's a genius. He knows what he like. It's because he's getting that repertoire because he won a title and he's probably going to win another tomorrow. Maybe not. We'll see if Purdue can get it done, but everybody thinks they're going to win another one. If he does, if he wins 2 in a row, it's like he can do no wrong. But what if he starts losing? Then people will turn on Dan Hurley. They'll start not believing in him. That's the way this stuff works. You only believe the coach and everything he says if you're winning.
Now, who do you think Kentucky's going to get? I'm thinking Brad Stevens, Nate Oates, Scott Drew.
Stevens. Oh, my. If Brad Stevens happens, Indiana fans will go crazy because they wanted Brad Stevens so badly. So we're throwing that one out the door. No Brad Stevens. Please don't be Brad Stevens. That would be crazy. I have this little list here. I don't know. I mean, there's probably other lists already, but this little list, they had Alabama's Nate Oates, which I don't see because he just took a big contract extension at Alabama. So why would he go to Kentucky? I mean, of course the real MVP wants Early Flint. Of course he does. He's the hottest name in college sports right now. I mean, come on. Oh my goodness. I literally was watching Dan Hurley the other day and he does remind me of Calipari though. I mean, did you see his facial expressions? I don't know if you saw that one play in the title or not the title game, but the Final Four game against Alabama where literally a UConn player just slung an Alabama player over and he was saying, it's a flop. It's a flop. And there was someone on Twitter saying that literally a UConn player could punch an Alabama player in the head and he would defend it. I mean, he literally argues every single call. And Cal used to do that in the past. He's kind of toned down a little bit. He's gotten a little older, but that's crazy. John Marzullo, he says, I'm in the minority, but I think Nate Oates could be a disaster for Kentucky. His style is similar to what has happened to Cal's teams. What do you think about that, Will?
Maybe, but I feel like Nate Oates is just more even keel than Cal, and I think Cal.
He's way more even keel. I agree 100%. This is a out of left field. Can't win for losing. Appreciate you for being here. He says Mark Pope to Kentucky, BYU coach. I wouldn't see him leaving BYU. He seems kind of like I guess with like the religious stuff, like he fits there. So I don't know. That would be an interesting hire, though. I wouldn't be awful, but definitely kind of out of left field. Now, Jackson, obviously, he's hoping Bama keeps staying for obvious reasons. I mean, I hope he stays at Alabama, too. He just got the contract extension. He's doing well there. Bama's having more success than they've had in basketball ever, it seems. I hope he stays there. And then you got Atheo. Appreciate you being here. He says Scott Drew's not cut out for it. I mean, Scott Drew built Baylor from ashes, basically. They were in the toilet. And over time, made them what they are now. Won a title, which no one thought Baylor could even achieve. So if he could do that at a program like Baylor, I mean, I think he could work at Kentucky. I know it's completely different. It's different boosters. It's different administration. But do you think Scott Drew would be a good hire, or do you even think it's possible?
I wouldn't. Kentucky's just too much of a pressure cooker. I think he's happy with the pressure, like the low pressure he has at Baylor.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's what I just kind of like you take a quarterback like Will Howard, right? He was at Kansas State, then he goes to Ohio State, and now the pressure is it's cooked up to 1,000,000 degrees higher. Like you have no pressure being Kansas State's quarterback. You win 9-10 games, you're good. At Ohio State, you don't win every game, especially the Michigan game, you're garbage. I mean, that's just the way it works. So, I mean, same thing with coaches. I agree with you. Scott Drew, I mean, they're going to build a statue of that guy outside of the Baylor facilities, man, when he's no longer coaching there because of what he's done. Like he'll never, like, unless he legit just fell apart and just they missed a tournament like 5 years in a row, they would never fire him. So it wouldn't make sense for him to leave looking at that, but it just depends on if he's ambitious enough. Does he want that type of job? If he doesn't, then staying at Baylor makes 110% sense. It just don't leave. But we'll have to see. And then this list also had Illinois' Brad Underwood. I don't see that one. That's not.
I mean, I kind of see that fit, honestly.
Maybe I don't, but you could be right. You could be right. Maybe I just think Kentucky's a step above Brad Underwood, but I don't know.
He seems like a type of guy that would embrace it.
Oh, I agree with that. I do agree with that because he came. Man, what school did he come from before Illinois? I can't remember. Stephen F. Austin. So he's moved up. I could see it. I don't know if it'd be the best fit for me, but you could be right on that. Now, can't win for losing, says Jerome Tang. People have soured on him. People have soured on him for some reason. I mean, I know they didn't do as good this past season, but like after his first year, people were just, Jerome Tang is great and all this. And now it's kind of like, And you saw like he was a candidate for the Arkansas job. And he didn't take it. Now, here's the thing I'm confused with. And I'll have to ask you this real quick, Will. Do you think that Chris Beard and Jerome Tang legitimately turned the job down? Or, again, do you think it was kind of all a ploy that Cal was the guy all along? We don't know.
I have a feeling it was a ploy.
It kind of does feel like a ploy. I really do. Because why else would all of these names surface and then Cal comes out of nowhere? I don't even know. Like they might not even have been interested in Chris Beard and Jerome Tang. Maybe not. I don't know. But, Jerome Tang, to me, I don't think Kentucky would hire a guy that's only been a head coach at Kansas State for 2 seasons.
I don't know. I think it's going to be Underwood. I think that's my pick right now. Underwood's my pick.
Downtown MB says Jack Golke transferring from Hillsdale College to Oakland is about to cause an all-time chain of coaching hire events. Well, that's a good point, really. You could argue single-handedly, but this has been brewing for a while, though. Kentucky, like, for the last few years has been discontented. The fans, anyway. They've been discontented with Cal. They've just been sick of Cal. I don't know about the administration. I have no idea. I'm not in their ear. I don't know. But I know the fans were sick of them. But the one thing I will always say, it's one of the most famous phrases of all time. You don't know what you got until it's gone. And I will say that for Kentucky fans. They hated on Cal. They said he was trash, but he's gone now, presumably. It's basically a done deal. I know it hasn't been formalized, but everybody's reporting it, Pete Thamel, so it's a done deal. So he's gone. And the new guy's coming to town. Will he be worse? And I'm telling you, Kentucky fans are going to lose their ever-loving mind if the next coach is significantly worse or it's just even the same as what Cal's been doing recently. Because at that school, Indiana simmered down because Indiana's been losing for a long time. But see, Kentucky hasn't reached that point. Indiana hasn't won a national title in 36 years, 37 years now. Whereas Kentucky, it's only been since 2012. But you give it a few more years, and if Kentucky keeps losing early in the tournament, starts missing some tournaments, those fans, it's going to be an outrage. It's going to be just – they're going to be furious. They're not going to be able to handle themselves.
Mm-hmm. It'll be interesting for sure. It'll be interesting.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I cannot wait to see what happens with this, man.
This
but it's already happening.
Lil Bonnet X on Twitter, this St. Bonaventure fan, that's funny.
Mm-hmm.
He said his list is funniest new head coach of Kentucky. Number 1, Ed Cooley. Number 2, Pat Kelsey. Number 3, Rick Pitino.
Okay. Pat Kelsey would be hilarious because he just got the job. That would be funny. That would be absolutely funny.
Number 4,
asked,
Josh
what all do
Schertz.
y'all talk about? I'm enjoying y'all. Appreciate that. Well, I talk about on my channel college sports, NFL, NBA as well. Will talks about Notre Dame a lot and VCU and other things, but he also covers broad sports as well. So both of us, we cover college sports, but do really appreciate you for stopping by and hope to see you around some more in the future. We'll definitely have more streams. I usually go live pretty frequently. I don't usually do emergency lives like this, but this is cool. This is fun. Just raw reaction. But getting back to what you were saying, Will, yes, Pat Kelsey would be nuts. That would be just the biggest, one of the funniest things I've ever seen. Rick Pitino, though, he coached at Kentucky before. Could it happen?
He took Kentucky out of a lot worse position than pretty much as bad as a position, even a worse position than Cal did when he got there, because Kentucky got hit pretty bad with recruiting violations right before he got there with Eddie Sutton. So he had a couple years where they couldn't make the tournament, and then of course he had that run to the Elite Eight and lost a Christian Laettner shot, and then he just kept rolling from there.
Yeah, the thing about recruiting violations, though, because you remember I tweeted out about Will Wade, right? Because he was a candidate for the Arkansas job, and I was like, "What about the recruiting violations?" And you were like, "Well, that doesn't matter anymore. The recruiting violations is out the door because everybody, the NIL and the portal, you can basically do whatever you want. It's the wild, wild west these days." So, that was a good point you made, but I don't know. That's interesting. Rick Pitino, I think it's possible, but. Aaron Judge, appreciate you for being here. He says Ed Cooley's unfaithful, but wouldn't last a day in Kentucky. The Georgetown rumors. Why? I still don't know why he took that job. I know he got paid more, but there was rumors that he was leaving, which I know that hasn't happened. He's still at Georgetown, but I think you remember seeing the rumors, Will, on that. But yeah, Ed Cooley to Kentucky's not going to happen. That's definitely not. Brad Underwood, I could see that way over Ed Cooley.
People are being weird in the chat.
Yeah, Aaron Judge, appreciate you for
Aaron Judge and Mac Jones need to do. I don't know. You're not on the right show. Yeah,
he says Ed Cooley. Yeah, but I appreciate the super chat though. I really do. But yeah, I usually do keep a family friendly show if possible. But do appreciate you being here. Really do appreciate the super chat. But is there any other coaching candidates that you could possibly see for Kentucky? We've thrown around Pitino, Brad Underwood, Scott Drew, Nate Oates. Clint Moses says Kelvin Sampson. Hey, that wouldn't be impossible.
Brad Stevens.
Brad Stevens isn't going to happen, man. It's not going to happen. I'm telling you, Indiana fans will lose it, man. Just like Louisville fans will with Pat Kelsey.
Oh, my gosh. Someone found a tweet in 2012 predicting John Calipari to go to Arkansas.
Oh no! How does somebody find that quickly? Really? I mean, how?
Mhm.
I love how people find like old tweets from forever ago, like years ago. I mean, of someone saying something. Like, to me, I can't even barely find my own tweets from 5 days ago. Like, you got to scroll down. I mean, how do people find this stuff? It's probably because they bookmarked it. Some people do that or whatever, but I don't know. AFO, he says Kentucky starts completely over in the AM and can't win. All recruits and currents are gone. I mean, the thing is that they are going to lose players. And some of them might go to Arkansas, maybe from Kentucky. That is possible. I mean, that's basically the way the portal's working these days because they're in like Florida Atlantic, like half the teams in the portal, and some of them probably will follow Michigan. I know none of them have announced yet that I know of. I've been following the portal pretty closely, but not that I know of that any of those guys have gone there. But some of those guys probably will leave Kentucky for Arkansas. But, I mean, I think Kentucky's going to be okay, but I am legitimately concerned for Kentucky fans because I know how insatiable that they are. They want to win, and the next guy for the job, I mean, it's like Kalen DeBoer at Alabama following Nick Saban. I know Cal's not Nick Saban. I'm not saying that, but the thing is that Kalen DeBoer's job, it's nuts. Like what he's going to have to do to keep the fan base happy with him. Just knowing that he's not Saban. I mean, it's going to be almost impossible to keep the fan base happy. And with Kentucky here, the problem is that Kentucky's not being left in a place that's basically perfect. Like with Saban, I know Alabama hasn't won a title in a couple years in football, but it's in way better shape right now than Kentucky basketball. It's not that Kentucky basketball is in bad shape. It's just not in elite shape. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting. We got Jackson for $2 with a super chat. Appreciate that, Jackson. Appreciate you for always being in the live stream. Really appreciate it. He says Billy Donovan or Jay Wright to Kentucky.
Not Jay
I'm just going to tell
Wright.
you this, Jackson. Jay Wright's not taking a job.
Not Jay Wright.
He loves his TV job. Now, what about Billy Donovan, Will? You think, I mean, Billy Donovan, I mean, he had a lot of success at Florida, NBA, mixed bag, possibility.
That would be I don't know how loyal he is to Florida.
Well, he didn't stay there. I mean, he did leave him for the NBA, but I don't know. It's
still
a possibility,
with the Bulls, right? Or did he get fired?
That's a great question. I know he's with the Thunder forever. That's where I remember him because that's when they had Durant, Westbrook. But I know he hasn't been there for a few years. But he probably is there. You're probably right. I think he is at the Timberwolves. I don't follow the NBA as closely. I do follow Chicago. The NBA.
Yeah, he's still with the Chicago Bulls.
Chicago Bulls. Okay. Chicago Bulls. So, yeah, I mean, they're doing all right, but, I mean, they're not great that I know of. But that's interesting. I could see it, though. Billy Donovan, Kentucky, it would make sense in a way, but can't win for losing, though. He says Matt Painter to Kentucky. I mean, Matt Painter to me seems like a guy that will stay at Purdue. He seems faithful to Purdue. He'll be like Gene Katie. He'll ride it out. I don't know if you agree, but I do. I think that's what he'll do. Mac Jones for $1.99. Appreciate you for being here. He says, yeah, okay.
Put your thing away.
Yeah, I do appreciate you for being here, Matt Jones. Appreciate the super chat. I'm glad you're having a great time tonight talking about Calipari and stuff, but appreciate you being here. AFO, he says Donovan started coaching as an assistant.
Yeah, under Pitino, because Pitino coached at Providence. Then Pitino went from Providence to Kentucky, and Donovan became his assistant at Kentucky.
Well, I mean, the connections are there. NBA's been kind of a rough, rocky road for him, but Kentucky, though, the insatiableness of that fan base. And I don't know how old he is, but
he's 58.
58. I don't know. That's interesting. That's really interesting. He definitely could do it. He could do it. He's still within that age, but wouldn't you think? I think Kentucky would go with someone younger. Clint Moses says, what about Sean Miller?
Sean's never gotten it done in the league, in the Final Four, man. He was at Arizona and couldn't make a Final Four with Arizona. So,
oh my gosh. Aaron Judge says Dan Hurley to Kentucky confirmed. What? I mean, no, there's no way that quickly, man. He's still coaching, man. He's still got to coach the national championship. To me, I think UConn's going to do everything that they possibly can to keep Dan Hurley. I don't know about you, Will, but they're gonna give him, if that possibility even arose of him leaving UConn for Kentucky, they would give him the bag. It would be a massive amount of money to keep him there, and you should. Can't win for losing, says Jamie Dixon. Now, we're just basically out there just naming every candidate possible with these, but Jamie Dixon, he was good at Pitt. He's been pretty solid overall at TCU. You see a possibility there?
I think he's going to stay loyal to his alma mater.
Mm-hmm. Aaron Judge, he says, breaking green shirt guys in talks with Kentucky. Previous reporting about Hurley was wrong. Oh, man, I love it. You guys have made for a very interesting chat tonight. I really appreciate it. Illini Cast, Sonny Verma, appreciate you for being here. He says, what's up, boys? Just did my own live stream on this, too. I'd make Hurley and Scott Drew say no, then Nate Oates. Seems like the perfect logical fit for both sides.
What do you think about Brad Underwood? I think Brad Underwood, I mean, do you think...
Oh, perfect, man, to talk about. It's the Illini Cast, man. Brad Underwood, I know Sonny Verma does not want to lose Brad Underwood. He's done good with the Fighting Illini. That would be a tough loss for Illinois to lose Brad Underwood. Be crazy. So hopefully we can get Sonny Verma's thoughts on that. But I mean, the more you keep saying it though, Will, the more I'm kind of agreeing with you, man. I could see it. I mean, I could legitimately see it. Illini Cass says I'd hate to lose him. I just wonder if he's too old for Kentucky. That's a good point. I don't know what age range they're going to be looking at. I mean, do they want to go super young? I mean, like we're talking 40s, or would they be okay?
I think they want to win now, right? It's been a while.
Yeah, I mean, they need to win now because the thing is, I will say, just in my opinion, looking at programs for the last, I've been watching basketball closely for the last 10 years. And just watching programs that used to be really, really elite, and they start to fade a little bit, and they're chipping away, and they're not winning as much. And then the longer it goes on, your standard lowers. I mean, Tennessee's suffering that crisis in women's basketball right now because you had Pat Summitt, and they won, and they won, and they won. And now they're starting to fade. They're not winning as much. They just fired Kelly Martin, and now they got a new head coach for Marshall. Kim Caldwell, will she get him to turn around? Because at Tennessee, you don't want to keep losing. And that's how the stuff works. Look at Nebraska. You had Tom Osborne retire, Bo Pelini, and then they kept getting worse, just chipping away at it. Now Nebraska, they just want to make a bowl game. A program that used to be winning national titles. They just want to make a bowl game. So that's what's going on here with Kentucky. We're at a crossroads. They can't start to fade away where just making the tournaments acceptable. They got to get this hire right. It's got to be a home run hire. So I don't know. David Jesse, appreciate you for being here. He says, what about Kentucky's assistant coach, Orlando?
I don't think they're going to promote any assistants at Kentucky.
Yeah, that's a long shot. And that would be a bad look to me. I think that would be – it's not – this isn't Ohio State where you had Jake Diebler where, you know, he was the intern for a while and he was winning, and then they ended up hiring him because of the success that he had as intern, because beating Purdue was a massive reason why he got the job. I don't know if he doesn't beat Purdue, I don't think he's getting that job. He could have won all the other games, but that was big for him. But Ohio State, they're not Kentucky in basketball anyway. So Illini Cass says, I think if Oates says no, Brad's on the short list. Because like you're saying, you think that they're going to go after the other guys first. I mean, I think Dan Hurley's impossible. That's just my opinion. I think Dan Hurley is absolutely impossible. Scott Drew, I think, is basically impossible. I see both of them as you can try it. I would throw Jay Wright in there as well. You can try it, but that's about it. I just don't really see much more than that, in my opinion. But then the other candidates, they're all possible. Because, I mean, when you look at those top candidates, why would Dan Hurley leave? He's going to continue to have success if he just has the fire and if he just keeps coaching the way that he is. If he keeps coaching the way that he is and he doesn't lose that fire in him, I believe he's going to continue to win a lot at UConn. I do. And then you look at Scott Drew, I don't see those. And then Nate Oates is the one that's fringe. It's possible, but I don't really see it either. And then after that, I mean, all the other coaches are on the table. Every other coach that we said, I could see it happening because they could pay for it. Those coaches would take the job. But those top ones, I see them as long shots. If Scott Drew or Dan Hurley took the job, I would be blown away. Mac Jones for another $1.99. Appreciate you again for the super chats. It's not happening, but I really do appreciate you for being here tonight for the stream. It's been nice having you in chat. Illini Cass says, I've seen Underwood's work up close. He should absolutely be considered for the job. And trust me, his agent is going to get him a raise from all this. If Kentucky calls, he'll be gone, and I can't blame him. So Illini Cass, definitely nervous there with Illinois. I do appreciate your insight, though, Sonny, because you are very in tune when it comes to college sports. You do a fantastic job over there at the Illini Cast, and appreciate your insight on the coaching search here, especially when it comes to Brad Underwood. But yeah, I mean, if he does leave Illinois, that's tough. I hate it. I really do hate it for Illinois fans because it sucks when you have a program where every single time you have a very successful coach, you end up losing that coach. Oh man, Mark Pope back to Kentucky. I don't see Mark Pope going there. I really do. Why is everybody with these comments, man? I don't understand this. I appreciate you guys being here, but we're talking about Calipari here and the coaching stuff. We're not doing that. Oh man, that's funny though. I do appreciate all you guys for being here. But I mean, do you have any more thoughts, Will? Because I mean, I know we got a really good chat here right now. You know, don't want to hop off just yet, but I mean, like, everybody's just throwing around names, and now we're just getting a little freaky in chat. But yeah, I mean, it's crazy, man. I mean, I just would have never thought this would have happened. I cannot believe going to bed. I was about to go to bed for the night, right? It's Sunday night, getting ready for the national championship tomorrow, and then this bombshell of news breaks. Just unbelievable news with John Calipari. I just can't believe, still in my brain, I cannot wrap my head around it.
Yeah, I mean, this is the craziest coaching carousel ever in college basketball.
It's definitely one of them.
So
appreciate the $1.99, Aaron Judge. Really appreciate it. I mean, there are definitely better places for that. I will say there's places for that. I mean, YouTube, you got community, you know, like guidelines or whatever that you gotta follow, and that's why I'm on here. I'm on the family friendly super chats. You know, I'm on the family friendly you know, ad reads. Like, I'm not gonna go anywhere near that stuff, man. We're keeping it family friendly, but I do appreciate your contributions to the channel. Really helps a lot. Really do appreciate you guys being here tonight. It's been awesome, but definitely not gonna do that for sure. None of that stuff. But now you got can't win for losing saying Shaka Smart to Kentucky.
It's not gonna happen.
I know you talk about Shaka a lot.
Pressure.
Will.
Shaka doesn't like the high pressure. We saw at Texas. I don't think he wants to go to Kentucky. He's happy at Marquette. He grew up in Marquette.
I can see that. I definitely can see him being committed to Marquette because I know, I definitely know that him being from Wisconsin and like that job's a perfect fit for him. It's a perfect fit. I mean, he's done well at Marquette, and I think that it's very well possible that he can continue to have success at Marquette just if he continues coaching the way that he is. And it's at a program, like I said, culturally, where he's from, geographically, it makes sense. And I think that he is a guy that will stay committed there. Same thing with Hurley at UConn if he just continues to win. continues to recruit, continues to have that fire in him. Because that's basically a lot of it what it is with coaching. You have to stay at the top of your game. You can't fall apart. And it's just Aaron Judge said that he loves my reactions. Well, I'm glad that you love my reactions, but I mean, I'm blown away at these comments though. John F says thoughts on LeBron and Bronny package duo to Kentucky. I don't see Bronny going to Kentucky, and I don't. Yeah, LeBron. There's no way that LeBron James is going to become the head coach of Kentucky while he's still playing basketball, because we know he wants to play with. We're family friendly here, but we know he wants to be on the court at the same time with his son. I know that for a fact. So I mean, he wants to be on. Yeah, I don't know if they want to be on the same team or if they want to be on different teams. But you remember LeBron has made that apparent. So I don't see that as being a possibility at all whatsoever.
I agree.
Yeah, we also got Clint Moe saying Jeffrey isn't too proud to read the super chats, laughing out loud. I do appreciate super chats. I really do, but I just can't do that. Clint Moe said, final thought, Big 12 must hold tight to their basketball coaches or it's another bad look of conference. Well, the thing is, that's what the Big 12 has going for them right now, right? I mean, they have it going for them that they're a basketball conference. They can't lose these coaches. Appreciate you for stopping by, Sonny Verma of the Illini Cast. Can't wait to get your thoughts on this stuff going on with Calipari, but really appreciate you for coming on, man.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Hold on. I'm just getting my stuff settled real quick. Yeah, crazy. Obviously it's WrestleMania, so I was watching that a little bit. Cody gets to finish his story. I think all right, time to go to bed. Let me check Twitter real quick. And then, whoa. And, I got into little discussions because I thought off the top of my head, I'm like, you know what? I feel like Brad should be on this list that of guys, Kentucky would consider. And I had some dialogue back and forth with a couple of my followers, and I was like, all right, let's just go live for this. And we had like 100 people on, just talking about where he would be on the list. He's a guy who Kentucky should absolutely consider. Whether they do it or not, I don't know. I don't know what they're looking for, but I do want to say, Jeffrey, you've got by far the most entertaining chat I've been doing this for since August, and you've got an entertaining crew here tonight on a Sunday night.
I appreciate that, Sonny. I mean, this never happens, by the way. Like, I don't know why the chat's doing this. I mean, some of these guys I've never seen in my chat before. Like, usually I don't do emergency lives. Like, it just never happens. And I mean, maybe I should do them more often. I mean, like doing for coverage like this.
Are Aaron, Mac, and Luke, are you guys just a group of friends with the hot
I think that's pretty awesome. Yeah, they're enjoying it.
It has to, man.
Are you guys all just on a Discord call? Just messing with our chat?
Well, I mean, they somehow stumbled on me. I have no idea. I mean, on my corner of the internet, but I mean, it's crazy. But yeah, like I said, I mean, I was literally about to go to bed, like you said, Sonny, because I mean, I'm trying to go to bed earlier. Like, the news, sometimes it happens late at night, but I don't think I've ever seen like news break like this with a coaching search at this hour. I mean, it's almost midnight on the East Coast when like it's finalized. Like we saw the reports, but then this just breaks that it is happening. I literally had a video already made saying, is he going to go there? And I thought he wasn't, what I said, but then it comes out that he is going to Arkansas, and I'm like, okay, I mean, I can't make this video anymore. I can't release it. So yeah, I mean, this was just bizarre how it happened.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, like in my opinion, it's the best job in college basketball, and obviously he's struggled there the last X amount of years, and there's a lot of is he staying? Is he going? But the national championship's tomorrow night. And this story might just be bigger than the game itself now tomorrow. Like, it's going to be talked about ad nauseum, and, people are going to be, agents are going to be working the magic and trying to get their clients raises. And, it's just what a way to kick off the offseason.
Oh, it's insane. I mean, me and Will were talking about it before I think you joined in the chat, but we were talking about how it reminds, especially me, of Tom Brady announcing he was retiring during the March Madness bracket reveal. And I was furious because I'm like, I have nothing against Tom Brady, but it's insane to me. I'm wanting to talk about the bracket. I'm looking at all these matchups. I want to see what, like who's going to make a deep run. Like, your brain just goes in a million different directions with that stuff. And then literally, like, the broadcast gets broken up. Oh, man, Tom Brady's retiring. And then that's what they're talking about for the next 30 minutes. And I'm like, we're not even talking about March Madness. And like you said, I know that the broadcast team tomorrow, that this is what they're going to be talking about half the time instead of the game, especially if it's a blowout game.
Mm-hmm.
And you just talked about
they're definitely going to talk
open, like with the transfer portal being open, like the whole roster reconstruction. Like Illinois, just speaking from my own selfish perspective, like we're losing 80% of our scoring, and so a lot of these guys that are who's following Cal to Arkansas, like are there veterans on Kentucky who Illinois might go seek out now? Like, not only is this a huge ripple effect on college basketball, what was actually brought up in one of my group chats was like Brad Underwood could be interested in the Alabama job because Alabama will pay and it doesn't come with the stress of the Illinois job. It's like all these kind of workings in and out. And I don't know. It's fun. It's going to have a huge, like AJ Storr. The rumor that I was hearing was it's going to come down to Kentucky or Illinois. He wants $1 million. So that probably you would think Kentucky. But now I'm reading that with the Arkansas job, that comes $5 million of NIL money every year. Well, that Walmart money, that Tyson Foods money, that pays a lot. So now does, Arkansas become the favorite for a guy like AJ Storr?
That's definitely a possibility. And I know that they'll probably go all in on him. And the thing is like when you mention the coaching carousel like this, it's a domino effect. One guy goes here and then another guy's going here. It's all moving around. And it reminds me of realignment because everybody was talking about USC, UCLA and all that going to the Big Ten and then Texas and then Oklahoma to the SEC. But then you had the down effects of, oh man, the American teams joining the Big 12. So then more teams had to join from like Conference USA to the American. It all was a domino effect. And it affected all of these conferences because even the smaller ones were losing their teams to these bigger conferences. And then the whole Pac-12 disintegrated. So it's crazy. I mean, to me, how you look at this major story, of Calipari going to Arkansas. And then now that spot's going to have to be filled. And if it is Brad Underwood, now we're talking about who they're going to hire, who Illinois is going to hire if that happens. So it's all a domino effect. And then whoever Illinois takes, if it's a head coach that's currently a coach, then it just keeps going and going and going.
Yeah.
And then like with the portal, I mean, literally, I didn't stop talking about the portal last year, Sonny, until literally like it was late June. It was late June. Like everybody starting to shift to football and I'm still making portal videos. I mean, is that probably going to happen again this year? It never ends.
There's no off season anymore. And I don't even know if you saw this tweet because I think you guys were you're probably streaming. And so it caught my attention. Matt Norlander, he tweeted that John Calipari leaving Kentucky has been on the table going back to February. He privately expressed significant, serious interest in the Ohio State job. I mean, that floored me. I was like, well, where'd that come from? So, he's been trying to get out, and I'm not saying I blame him. He's made a lot of money there, but Kentucky is the one job in the country where if you don't win the championship, you failed. Mm-hmm. And, dealing with that for so long, sometimes you just kind of get tired with it. So, he's had enough. He's still going to be paid handsomely. I know he's actually close to the Tyson Foods family down there, so I'm sure this was a easier conversation. Arkansas is just probably super grateful. Guys like Chris Beard turned the job down, and some of the other guys who turned the job down, and now they have Calipari, and we'll see how this works out.
It's funny because he had a theory that those guys didn't turn the job down and that it was all a ploy and that it was Calipari the whole time. Like it was already a done deal. I have no idea.
Right.
I don't have the back channeling. I have no clue, but it could have been that.
kind of
Because
like
I thought that Chris Beard was going to go there. I thought he
Yeah.
was. I thought it was done.
So similar to like the Alabama football job, where every coach in the country supposedly sent out a YouTube video saying that they're staying and not interested in the Alabama job, but for all we know, Alabama had already picked DeBoer. But yeah, I mean, college basketball, college football, it's just crazy now. There's no off season. It's good for content creators like us. It gives us. I mean, again, I had almost 100 people on my stream earlier, and it's a Sunday night, late at night, but people just wanted to talk about this, and so what happens tomorrow? I think we'll find out.
Oh, it's
Sonny,
crazy. Like,
do
it's
you
one of
think
the biggest
that
audiences I've had in a while, and I appreciate Will coming on to do it, and you as well. Go ahead, Will.
do you think that Brad has done a comparable job to Bill Self at Illinois, or definitely not quite there?
Well, the thing with Self is he was only there for 3 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like Self was an up and coming young coach. He was at Tulsa. We hired him from Tulsa. Like, there was no secret that Bill was like one of the up and coming coaches in the country. And if a program like Kentucky or Kansas or whatever inevitably called, he would leave. Brad is on just a different trajectory. He's obviously older than Self was back then. I love Brad. I've been a huge Brad Underwood guy. I think, we get compared a lot because we're rivals, essentially, especially in particularly in basketball with, Purdue. And there's a lot of Illini fans who aren't happy that Purdue's playing for the national championship tomorrow. But for me, like, I just think Matt Painter and Purdue are further along than Brad is. Brad took over a dumpster fire at Illinois. Matt Painter's in his 19th year at Purdue. Next year is going to be year number 20. And truthfully, I genuinely think that if Brad Underwood sticks around at Illinois for 19 years, with the way that the direction that we're going, that he will have a Final Four should he stay 19 years. Should he make a national championship game? I think he can do that based on where we're going right now. So, I mean, I think I've said this on my show. I think he's the best coach in my generation. And, that means no disrespect to Bill Self, mainly just because he's been here longer now. And Self he was very good. Don't get me wrong. Obviously, we made an Elite Eight run, and then we went to the national championship game with his players, essentially, when he left. But, I'm a little too young to really remember the Lou Henson era, so I can't really speak on that. But the job Brad Underwood has done, just the fact that an Illinois coach is being considered for a job at Kentucky is a win for us.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, like John F. says here, Bill and Brad aren't in the same league. But the thing that makes that so tough to say is because you're looking at what Bill Self has done at Kansas. And that's why you're saying they're not in the same league. If you just take what they both did at Illinois, it's a lot more comparable than one would believe. Because like you said, he was there shorter. And I mean, Brad Underwood, no one was really expecting him to do this at Illinois. I mean, like the fact that you're talking about Illinois being disappointed that they're not in the national championship game in Purdue shows how far Illinois has come. I mean, Indiana used to be in that boat, right? Like Indiana was Purdue's ultimate rival. Now Illinois is giving them better games. Like it's insane. I mean, Indiana, get your act together. But yeah, I mean, Illinois, it's just, I agree. Like this Illinois is a program. It's interesting because football and basketball have never really been elite neither. I mean, you would know way more about their history than I. I mean, I know they've had good seasons, but like no one really like says they're a football school, they're a basketball school. But like right now, they're a really good basketball team. And they got to keep Brad Underwood. If they can, it would be fantastic for them to do so because I agree with you. I think if he's there as long as Matt Painter has been at Purdue, I think they will have tons of success. They're going to keep winning because it just seems like Illinois is investing hard. I mean, that's why they were able to land Terrence Shannon. That's why they were able to land, Matthew Meyer from Baylor. I mean, like those additions were big, and it takes I know a lot of people, I don't know how much it is because I'm not in the, in the discussion for that stuff, but it takes a lot of money to get guys of that caliber.
Yeah, I mean, we're like top 2 or 3 when it comes to NIL funding on the basketball side. We're a really passionate group on the basketball side. Football, just the years of mediocrity, and that's me being nice, has kind of made us, the Illini fan base a little cold towards football, but when it comes to basketball, I mean, you don't really think of Illinois as like a basketball powerhouse, but I think we have like the 14th most wins in history of college basketball. You know, we've gone through such a dark period with the second half of Bruce Weber's tenure, and then John Gross was just overmatched. I mean, he's doing great. He's at where he should be, right? Like now he's doing a great job at Akron, but that's the level where he should be. And just to tackle a couple of comments that John F said, Brad Underwood would be 80 years old in 19 years. Yeah, well, I meant if he had stayed 19. He's already in year 7, so we're talking about another 10 years or so. That's when I think, like, I realistically think that Illinois has if Purdue can make it, we can, because we spend more resources than they do. And the next one, Bill Self is one of the best college basketball coaches of all time. Can't compare him with Underwood, even if you're looking at their time at Illinois. Well, I think what Will was asking me was to grade the 3-year period that Self coached at Illinois and Brad Underwood's 7 years at Illinois. Like, that's what I'm comparing those two. I'd be silly to say that Brad Underwood was on the same tier as Bill Self as a coach in the grand scheme of things. But the way I comprehended his question was rate them as Illinois coaches. And that's where I think Brad Underwood shines above anyone, at least since I started watching him.
For sure. I mean, I think you made an interesting point talking about how Illinois is 14th all time in wins, because there's a lot of programs that when you look at like their history, you just don't really think of them as like a good basketball school, but they've got the history. I mean, NC State, like, they're another program where like nobody talks about them, but like they got a couple national titles, but they haven't done anything in like 30 years. You know, they just did it now this year, but like they have a history. Valvano, like they've had success. It's just, if you don't have sustained success or tons of national titles, I mean, let's face it. Again, I know everybody knows that I talk about Indiana a lot more than I probably should. But Indiana, if it wasn't for the 5 national titles, they would be dead. That no one would even be talking about them anymore. I mean, because they haven't done anything in forever. But the 5 national titles, they get away with it. That's why they're still in the discussions. That's why people still think, well, it's Indiana. They're in the top 10 of everything. But NC State doesn't get that luxury because of the fact that they only have 2. Illinois doesn't get that luxury because they're just not on that level either. So Illinois, they're better than people think. They're better than people give them credit for. And a lot of these programs are. So many of these programs are a lot better than people give them credit for. But a lot of times at the end of the day, they just look at titles. They just look at, stuff like that. And it's not necessarily fair because there's a lot more that goes into it. I mean, even lower than both Illinois and NC State, but like Utah is another program that in the past used to win a lot, but no one even cares about them anymore because, like, it's Utah. They're horrible. But it's just, if you look at the grand scheme of things, some of these programs are better than people give them credit for. And I agree with you. Illinois, they're a much better basketball program most people would first look at when it meets the eye. And I think that they have a chance to really improve upon that. And this is a crossroads. I mean, this is a big crossroads. And, when it comes to college basketball with this, coaching carousel here, I think if Illinois keeps Brad Underwood, I think they're keeping him for the rest of his time in coaching college basketball, because why else would he not take this job if it's offered to him and then leave after this? I think Illinois, he's staying there as long as he wins. He's staying there if he doesn't take this job. And same thing with like Nate Oates. People are saying Nate Oates. He just got the contract extension at Alabama, but they're throwing him in the list. If he doesn't take the job, I mean, what other job would you take? I mean, Kentucky is Kentucky. It's the biggest job, one of like top 3. Some would say number 1, like you mentioned. But yeah, I don't know. Like Clint Moses, he says Kansas and UNC are head and shoulders above the rest of the Blue Bloods currently. I mean, there's a lot of other aspects that go into what's the best job other than who's playing the best. But you got a point, Clint. But yeah, I just feel like whoever takes this job, whether it's Underwood or Nate Oates, it's going to hurt Alabama or Illinois. And if they don't leave, then it's going to help those programs tremendously.
Yeah. So I know I kind of brought that up earlier. What are your guys' thoughts? Let's just say Kentucky takes Nate Oates and now the Alabama job opens up. If I'm Alabama, And if I'm Brad Underwood, like Brad gets to go to Alabama, a school that's got a lot of money, but where people really don't pay much attention to basketball. And he can kind of like, again, the Illini fans are kind of crazy. Do you think Alabama would be a step up? It's not a step up job wise, but do you see a reason for Brad to leave Illinois for that? Or do you think Brad would only leave for a Kentucky type of job?
I think he'd only leave for Kentucky.
I mean, I could maybe see it, but I mean, the more like talking to you, Sonny, and I know you're an Illinois fan, but you got me buying into Illinois, man, as a basketball program. So I would have to say around the same. I think that Kentucky's the only job he would leave for. It's possible, but I mean, I don't know Brad Underwood. I mean, I don't know any of these coaches personally because, like me, I'm an avid believer Jay Wright's done coaching college basketball. I think he's done. I think he's going to continue to be an analyst. He's going to love that job. He's already loving it. He's done. He doesn't like the NIL and the portal. He's kind of already said that, which is why he left Villanova at the top of his game. So I don't see him coming back to the coaching, but everybody keeps throwing him around. Even this job, they're saying Jay Wright to Kentucky. I don't agree. I think he's going to stay doing what he's doing, but I don't know. Like I said, I have no idea. I just report what I think and what a lot of other people are saying. I just not in those circles. So I don't know, but I'm with Will and you. I think that he would only take the Kentucky job. So it's going to be interesting. AFO asked all three of us. He said, who would each of y'all say is the best pick for Kentucky currently? Will kind of already answered that earlier by saying Brad Underwood, but what are your guys' thoughts?
I mean, is this with the assumption that Hurley and Drew say no? Which I thought. I don't think they'd say no.
I think they say no.
Yeah. I think they would say no too, but you have to make them say no. Like, there's no way. You need to at least have them pick up the phone and say, "Is there a price?" And if ultimately the answer is no, at least you tried. Outside that, I think Oates or Underwood is probably the next best guy for a content creator, for someone who enjoys college basketball. I would love it if they brought back Rick Pitino, but that's not going to happen. I just
That'd be
think
cool.
That would bring, that would bring everything full circle. And he just talked about it a couple of weeks ago how that was like the biggest regret that he's ever had is leaving for the NBA and leaving Kentucky the first time. But I mean, I'm a Bulls fan, so I would love it if they took Billy Donovan. The franchise itself is just so stagnant, and he's paid a decent amount of money, but the Kentucky job is probably one that he could get a raise from. But I was talking on my show. I can't imagine being a professional coach for X amount of years, making millions of dollars, and then decide to want to go back to college and go text teenagers and deal with the recruiting type of scene. So Billy Donovan's a pipe dream for me, selfishly, as a Bulls fan.
I mean, it's like how, again, every Indiana fan wanted Brad Stevens. I mean, when Archie Miller got fired, it was like the Brad Stevens stuff. I didn't even have my YouTube channel yet, but if I did, I would have been saying, it's not happening. Brad Stevens is not happening. It's never going to happen. I don't know why you're even trying. He's getting the biggest job you could get at the Celtics. Like, Danny Ainge just lined this thing up. It's a done deal. It's insane. But I could see Billy Donovan. We talked about him earlier, actually. And Michael Williams is saying it as well. Billy Donovan's name I will look at. He's got ties to Kentucky in the past. It's not impossible. And like you said, a lot of Bulls fans aren't happy with the current situation. At least they're not the Pistons or the Charlotte Hornets or something. Yeah. I mean, they're horrible, but yeah, definitely the Bulls should be better. But yeah, I could see it. I just don't know, like you said, with the way college athletics are right now. The NBA, it's a better job if you have talent. I mean, being Joe Mazzulla, it's the greatest job in the world. I mean, you got the best roster available in the NBA, it seems right now. Like every player, it fits. The Celtics are rolling. We'll see if they can finish it off with finally a ring or whatever, but a title. But I don't know. I feel like the NBA, if you have great talent, it doesn't matter really how bad you are, you're going to win. Whereas college, I mean, you have to recruit. You got to do all these things. I mean, because I feel like, and I'm bringing him up again, but I feel like Mike Woodson with Indiana, that's his problem. I really do, because he's golfing. Like Will pointed out earlier, he's golfing today. And it's like, you got to recruit, man. Like the portal, you didn't play in the NIT. Indiana fans are losing it right now. Like you got to, every day you have to work. I mean, I remember Kurt Signetti getting the Indiana football job, and he said, I mean, he might have been bluffing, but he legit said that he did not see daylight for like 2 months, barely. Like he was just in his office, like he's calling people, he's contact. You got to do all this in this modern era. And even if there's dollar bills involved, sometimes it takes a little bit more than dollar bills to get somebody to go to a program. It takes a little more, sometimes fit, maybe coaching style. I don't know. But yeah, I'm with you. I mean, if I'm Billy Donovan, why would I want all that when I'm just in the NBA and you just let the guys run around on the floor and chunk up a million threes?
Yeah, but I mean, just in terms of the Woody going to the golf course, like one of my Notre Dame YouTubers who complained about he really didn't like Brian Kelly when he was at Notre Dame, and he really doesn't like Kelly now. But everyone always, I felt like every weekend Brian Kelly was out on the golf course instead of recruiting. There's an inverse relationship with the more you golf, the worse your team will play during the season.
That's funny. I mean, I don't golf at all. So, I mean, like I did it one time and I was horrible. So I think that's a game you get better at the older you get. So I'm too young for it.
Well, I'm older than you, Jeffrey, and I'm no better. So it may not be better the older you get.
Man, that stinks. I was hoping. Traveling Fools is here. Appreciate you for being here. Benjamin says, anyone taking Purdue money line?
I haven't had much success gambling in the past few months, so I'm not.
I have them. They were my prediction to win it all at the beginning of the year. I think UConn's the better team, but it's just really, really hard to repeat in college basketball. And Purdue has all the pieces in place with Edey and their Matt Painter, who I hold in super high regard. Braden Smith had a bad game on Saturday, and I've seen this guy up close all season long. That means he's going to go off on Monday. So I already have a couple futures from, I took before the tournament started, but I also jumped on the +6.5, and I have plus 230 money line for Monday night. I think that's very good value.
You're not cashing out of the futures. You're sticking with it.
So I do what are called happiness hedges. All right. And I get ridiculed by a lot of people for doing this. But as an Illinois fan, on my show, even when it has nothing to do with Purdue fans came to my chat and just started trolling me. So I have a dislike for their fan base. The team I don't mind. But what I've always done is if Purdue's going to raise that trophy tomorrow and I have to be sad, at least let me get paid for it. I pay. That's basically how I work. It's like I did this with the Cubs World Series run in 2016. I lost 4 figures easy because every single game I bet on us losing and figuring, hey, if we win, I'm going to be happy anyway. But if we lose, then I'm going to pay to, these tiers are going to cost some money, make me some money at least.
I'm absolutely in agreement there. You can never bet your favorite team to win. I mean, that is just the worst. Because
then when they lose, you're broke and sad.
Yeah.
So I agree there. But funny thing on Purdue is that I only made one bracket. I'm not old enough to bet. I can't bet. So, but
you can do offshore, Jeffrey. You can do offshore.
Yeah, but I try to stay away from it. I try to do the right thing. But the thing is that I did one bracket. And I stuck to my bracket. When I made all my predictions, I stuck to my bracket and all my picks I made. If the team I had advancing, I had them winning, I picked them every time no matter what. So I was faithful to that. But I picked UConn before the tournament started to win it all. That was my pick to win it all. And I had Purdue losing in the second round. I thought Purdue was going to lose the second round. But once they advanced past that, I started picking them. So I redeemed myself in that regard. But Purdue, I think they're really good. My biggest issue is I'm just worried that UConn's faster. Like Purdue's gotten faster with the additional Lance Jones and Fletcher Loyer, Braid Smith. They've gotten a lot better. But then you got with UConn like Tristan Newton, Cam Spencer is just crafty. That guy's crafty, man. I don't know. Like, you think Braden Smith's crafty, and then you see Cam Spencer. It's unbelievable. And then Stephon Castle. Alabama just did not do a good job on him. Let him just roam everywhere. And by far had the best freshman performance of all, like, the talented five-star guys in the tournament. We know Kentucky's didn't perform against Oakland. Reed Shepherd, Robert Dillingham. But, yeah, I just think that UConn, to me, is just faster and quicker than Purdue. And I think that Donovan Clingan and Edey are going to kind of cancel each other. I know some people think Edey's going to dominate still, but I think they're going to kind of cancel each other out. And I think the guards for UConn and the role players are going to outperform Purdue's. But I could be wrong.
I mean, the teams kind of mirror each other. The only difference is UConn's guys are also NBA guys.
Mm-hmm. That's it. That's what I'm saying. Like the athleticism.
These guys are just dudes. Yeah.
I mean, again, trust me, 30-0 run. And Illinois is a good basketball team. But once I saw what UConn was capable of doing, again, I get in trouble with my own fan base because I don't always predict us winning. And so I predicted about a 15-point loss to UConn in the Elite Eight. Now, obviously, I undershot it, but I knew, just seeing what UConn was, that we were going to be – a team has to play perfect to beat them. But I think of all the teams in the country – I'm looking forward to Monday night because, you know, I watch a lot of college basketball, and I think the two best teams in the country are going to be playing on Monday night. And, you know, I'm looking forward to watching the game.
Oh, me too. And the funny thing is I gave Illinois more credit. I only had them losing by 8 to UConn in the Elite Eight. Only by 8. And I got blasted for that one. People were like, you were way off. I'm like, yeah, I was, but I still picked UConn. I mean, it's not like I picked Illinois or anything. But,
right.
Yeah, I gave Illinois a lot of credit. But, man, that's that run. I couldn't believe it. Like, this was a good game. I was like, this is competitive. It looks like it's going to go down, you know, somewhat to the wire. Maybe UConn pulls away, but then they just – absolutely destroyed them. But I agree with your assessment there. I think these are the two best teams. The only other team that I really liked was Houston. I know that their offense could fall asleep, but I don't care what any Duke fan says. If Jamal Shead did not get hurt, they win. Now, is Houston better than Purdue and UConn based on the way these two teams are playing right now? No. But Houston would have made it further. I don't know where they would have lost, but eventually, but they should have beat Duke, man. I mean, Jamal Shead going down. They didn't have a point guard out
Duke
there.
was winning at the time, though. Duke was winning when Jamal Shead got hurt. I'll give that to the Duke.
Houston would have won, man. But that was tough there. But, yeah, I do agree with you, Sonny. The two best teams are playing, and a lot of times, a lot of years, that does not happen. A lot of times, one of them goes down. So I just hope we get a great game. I'm afraid that UConn could end up not blowing them out, but going on one of those runs. Because the problem is, and I feel like that's the issue with the Big Ten in general, and I know you would agree with this, because of the fact that the Big Ten does not get these talented guys very often. I mean, you look at the recruiting rankings, these guys are going to the Big 12, the SEC almost exclusively these days, and then the leftovers of the ACC, maybe Big East with like UConn, and maybe USC or Arizona, UCLA gets a couple of guys. And then in the Big Ten, it's like maybe Izzo gets a 5-star. Now Illinois is getting better players. Indiana recruits, but they don't win. And then everybody else, it's like, nope. I mean, like, they're not getting really good players. And I feel like it's the problem with Purdue. They're just the talent. It's there because of the coaching and what they've built. But they just don't have, I don't know, the X factor. Like, I want to see them be able to win. I want to see the Big Ten be able to win before I kind of change my tune on the Big Ten, because I've basically just been picking against the Big Ten. Like every Big Ten team, I had Illinois going the furthest in my bracket because I liked the talent they had. I felt like they were the most talented team in the Big Ten, but that's about it. And Michigan State had some talent, but they were not very good. So I don't know. The Big Ten's got to recruit better, and they need to change the style. I can't stand the style of play in the Big Ten. I know it's old school, but it hurts them from getting these type of players.
But that's why I love Brad. So Brad recruited the old Big Ten style. You know, we had the big guy. We had Kofi. And then what did that ultimately result in? Once March hit, when we went up against athletes in, against like a team like Houston, we just didn't match up very well. So once we won the Big Ten Conference, we won the tournament twice. Brad, I think, kind of decided to shift his focus to building a team for March and less for the Big Ten. And you saw it this year. Like we were arguably, I'm a little more biased here, but I think we were the most fun team to watch in the country. We had, about 6-7 guys, all 6'5" or higher, basically just wings who could all shoot, who could all pass, who could all attack the basket. Brad basically adjusted his philosophy to like the 5-out that's kind of being played in the pros right now. Like in college basketball, still more traditional basketball, but the NBA has kind of changed more to the 3-pointer and just wings and defense. And again, that's one of the things I love about Brad. Like, he's always kind of at the forefront of trying to see where the game is going, and he's willing to adjust. 2 years ago, we had a top 5 recruiting class. 2 of those guys left. He realized, 18, 19 years olds, like they have such high expectations, and even if you play the minutes, like they may leave anyway. So he's decided to switch philosophies again. So now he brings veterans in, Marcus Domask, Justin Harmon, 2 guys who succeeded very well at smaller programs. They're older, you're talking about 22, 23 years old. They're not really scared of the limelight. And yeah, our recruiting rankings aren't as high, but just take a look at the success on the court. Finally, Brad was able to get that monkey off his back and make it to the second weekend. And not even that, like we beat a pretty good Iowa State team to make it to the Elite Eight. And again, I might be biased, but I think we're the 3rd best team that was in the tournament. The reason we're at home now is that we ended up facing UConn, a team which, in my opinion, is generational. So, we'll see how Purdue does against them tomorrow.
Yeah,
but
for sure. I mean, I think when you talk about with Illinois, like Dane Danger, he was like the transition player because he came in to kind of be like Kofi Cockburn, and he was a little smaller, but he was good. I mean, I remember him and Trace Jackson Davis battling it out. It was a lot of fun to watch. Jackson Davis got the best of him a lot, but Dane Danger had his moments, and then his minutes just disappeared. I was like, is he still on the team? I turned on Illinois, and I'm like, where is he? And I'm like, oh yeah, he's on the bench, and I'm like, oh, Brad Underwood changed the style of play, and now Dane's just not getting any time, even though he's a good player. It just Illinois, it worked better. And even though they did work him in more toward the end of the season at times when it benefited, they still didn't use him that much overall in the season. And like you said, bringing in more of the experienced players. That's why Kentucky with Calipari wasn't having the tournament success. And I think that's the biggest problem with recruiting because especially I would argue it's worse in football because you're recruiting so many guys when you have all these freshmen that come in. I mean, you talk about schools like, Alabama or Georgia, or, all these schools, or Miami or Florida, they're even worse. They're bringing in these top 5 recruiting classes every year, top 10 recruiting classes. And then after a year, half the guys leave. A&M was bad too. I mean, Jimbo Fisher had the number 1 recruiting class. And then the next year, all of them are gone. Like almost all of them leave. And it's like you spent all of that money to bring these players to on campus to recruit them. And now you land them. And then a year later, they give you no production. And then they're gone. They're out the door. It's not as bad in basketball because, like I said, not as many players, not as many guys you're bringing in every freshman class, but that stinks. It's awful. And I know some people said it's bad for high schoolers because of the fact that it gives them less of a chance to play right away because they're having to compete with all these experienced guys, which that's true, but that's just the nature of the game. And, I mean, sometimes it's why maybe it's good to go to a little bit of a smaller school and then transfer up. I mean, how many of these guys are doing that? I mean, guys we never heard of, Dalton Connect, Northern Colorado, never heard of this guy. And then Tennessee. I mean, people are like, he should have won Player of the Year. So it's crazy. But yeah, I think overall, just you have to adapt. If the freshman isn't working, and that's what Calipari should have done. He should have transitioned what he was trying to do. Bringing all these one and dones. He should have shifted that, kept bringing some of them in, but then bring in more of the experienced guys, and it could have worked. But now he's gone, and it's going to be really interesting with all this with the coaching carousel, man. I hope Brad Underwood stays for your sake, Sonny, but I really do appreciate you for coming on. No, you probably got to go soon. It's getting late. Will's probably got to go to bed as well. Everybody's still up. Like, nobody's going to bed. Can't believe this, but I do appreciate you for coming on, Sonny. It was a blast having you on.
Yeah, no. Thanks for inviting me on. I'm always down to talk college basketball. I try to chime in whenever I see you guys online. I try to say hello in the chat. If any of you guys, again, if you're interested in Illini content, follow me at IlliniCast. I also do Big Ten Show stuff. At Big Ten Show, find me on that. That's going very well for us. But yeah, thank you guys so much for having me on. I've got an early flight to Austin, Texas tomorrow morning. So I'm going to bid you farewell now, but I'll continue watching.
Give him a horns
Appreciate
down.
that, Sonny. Hope you have a safe flight for sure. And definitely go check out Sonny, everybody, because he does fantastic content all over the internet about a variety of different teams, but mostly Illinois. But thanks again for coming on, Sonny. It was a blast.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Sonny.
Yeah, Clint Moses, you enjoyed it. Great guest. Appreciate that, Clint. But I don't know how much longer we're gonna go live. I mean, definitely Will. He's probably getting tired. Whenever you gotta hop off, Will, definitely let me know. But this has been awesome. This has been a fantastic show. John F's asking, why did Danger leave? Because he wasn't playing as much. That's probably the case. I mean, unfortunately, his playing time got reduced. He had a very good run there at Illinois. I mean, because he came from Baylor. I mean, Illinois was having that success with the Baylor transfers because you brought in Matthew Mayer and then you brought in Danger, but Illinois wasn't playing him as much anymore because of the shifting styles. I mean, back to the basket bigs that don't do a whole lot else. I mean, they're not as effective as they used to be. It's just not the way to go. I mean, it's better to have guys that can step out and do some things. I mean, Klingon, that's why he's going to probably be a better pro than Zach Edey, because he's quicker. He can flip his hips more. He can, run off screens more. I mean, you saw him be at the top of the free throw line and then go into the basket and block several shots. Edey can't do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I'm hoping Purdue wins just because UConn fans are a little much, but they're definitely the favorite.
It's funny because Indiana fans, they don't want either team to win, because if UConn wins, they're going to get their 6th national title, which will be one more than Indiana's. And if Purdue wins, they'll get their 1st, and they just don't want Purdue to win anything. I've even seen, I swear, Will, Indiana fans are so adamant about UConn not getting another title than Indiana that some of them are resonating that they want Purdue to win. I've seen this online. They want Purdue to win. They're like, I don't care. The Big Ten will get their first championships since 2000, and they'll only have one where we have 5. That's fine. I just don't want UConn to win.
I mean, all of UConn's championships have came after all of Indiana's.
I know, and that's sad.
Yeah.
I know. I mean, it hurts, man. It hurts. I mean, that's what Carolina does for me. Carolina helps me in that regard, because at least they're still good.
If you have any materials to check out, please bring them to the information.
But yeah, Jackson, appreciate you promoting all the shows, promoting Sonny's shows all over the internet. Appreciate that. He's also promoting your channel as well, Will. Go check out Will ND. And he's also promoting my Twitter account and my Rumble account. I do have a Rumble account where I stream the live streams, and I have my videos over there as well if you want to go check that out. And I post on Twitter every single day. Sometimes I don't want to be on Twitter because it's just crazy all the time, but there's a lot of news going on. I want to give my thoughts, especially when I can't make a video on every single subject. But appreciate that, Jackson, a lot, and do appreciate everybody for the super chats tonight as well. That was awesome, even though the comments were crazy. Clint Moses says Payne. I don't know if you're referring to like who, I guess with Indiana, with the title, or if you're talking about Oregon State basketball, because Oregon State, I hate it for Oregon State in general, man. It's just so tough right now with the transition and all that, with not being in the Pac-12 anymore, and now they're not. It's just a rough situation. I just really, really hate it for Oregon State overall. But yeah, I mean, we've about basically covered everything. Calipari to Arkansas. We covered a little bit of Eric Musselman to USC. I mean, I guess a little more thoughts on that real quick before we get out of here, because I mean, we still got 28 people watching. Really appreciate everybody. But do you believe that Musselman? This is a good question. Do you think Eric Musselman will have a better shot to succeed at USC or Calipari to succeed at Arkansas for what those programs want and what those coaches are capable of?
I'm picking Musselman.
Ooh, I mean, hey, it definitely USC. I mean, they expect to make tournaments, but I think he can give them what they want.
I feel like SC isn't really a downgrade, because you're recruiting guys to go to LA. That shouldn't be too hard.
That's true. I mean, I just thought it was a downgrade. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but I think it's a downgrade. I feel like USC is a worse job in Arkansas, but when I said that, people were like, it's the location, man. LA is way better than Arkansas. Some people would disagree with that. Some people would agree with that. It depends on what you want. Depends on what you're looking for.
Who wants to go to college in Arkansas, man?
Well, I mean, a lot of people do. I mean, that's why their fans are there, right?
I mean, they live in Arkansas and they never left.
I mean, that's true. I mean, I've never been to Arkansas, so I've never been to LA either. So like, I don't know. I mean, the big city just depends on if you want big city, you know, Hollywood, all that, or you want, you know, Arkansas, Fayetteville, Arkansas. I mean, you're not that far away from Walmart. I mean, the Bentonville and everything where they're from. So BR Rounder, appreciate for stopping by. He says Cal at Arkansas for sure. So he thinks that Cal can succeed at Arkansas. I mean, I don't know. I think it could go either way. I mean, you could convince me both ways and I could see it. I mean, at the end of the day, I just can't believe Eric Musselman leaving Arkansas for USC made John Calipari take this job. Basically, all of this talk, we've had so much fun the last hour and a half, and my brain just still can't wrap my head around this. It will never make sense. Even years later, even if John Calipari lays it all out, we already kind of know anyway. I mean, we've spilled it out, but like this is just insane to leave that type of job. BR Rounder, he says USC Arena holds half capacity of Arkansas and they still can't fill it. 20,000 fans a game feel different. Yeah, I mean, that's probably why I felt Arkansas was a better job, man. I felt like the fans, because USC is always empty, but that's because there's so much to do. In LA, it's the same thing with Miami, plus the stadium's way too far away from where it should be. But like Miami, I mean, there's so much to do down there that the stands are halfway empty at Miami. So, yeah, that's the problem. UCLA football as well. I mean, it's always empty. So that's why I just think Arkansas is a better job. I mean, it's gonna be a wake-up call for Musselman. I mean, granted, he's used to the West Coast. He coached in Nevada in college basketball, Warriors and the Sacramento Kings in the pro. So he's used to California. But I really can't believe he left that job either. I know why he did, job security, probably money and the location, but I still can't believe he left either.
Yeah, he's just a West Coast guy going back to the West Coast. Similar to Ryan Odom going from Utah State to VCU. He's an East Coast guy going back to his roots.
Yeah, sometimes guys will take a detour just to get that better job. I will say, though, Utah State is like the ultimate stepping stone job. Every coach that goes there leaves. I mean, Ryan Odom, Danny Sprinkle, like that's Craig Smith, the guy that's now at Utah. That's just tough. Like, they've had 3 different guys leave for a better job in the last, 4 years. Like, that's nuts. That's crazy. Joseph Thomas, appreciates for being here. He says Cal, a friend of Arkansas booster John Tyson. Cal leaving the Wildcats to be a hog. That's funny. That's funny. Yeah, and then Jade, appreciate you being here. He says Cal took this job because he's BFFs with the billionaire Tyson. Yeah, I mean, I didn't even know that because, like I said, I mean, I try to keep in tune with what's going on. But I didn't even know about the Tyson thing. You knew about that, Will, before tonight, right?
I mean, I'm not surprised by it, but I knew he definitely talked to a booster.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't even know that he was because, I mean, now that everybody's saying it, it makes complete sense why he left, I guess. But because, like Sonny put it earlier, I mean, the pressure's not there. I get that, but it's just odd. I get why he left, but at the same time, I don't, because it's never gonna be the same for him. I mean, being at Kentucky, that is the best job, or one of top 3 jobs in college basketball. And now he's going to a job where there's 15, 20, 25 other schools that it's comparable to. It's just not on the same level. So, I mean, if that's what Cal wants, to finish out this career. I mean, look at Bob Knight. We know he was forced out at Indiana. He was fired because of what happened, but he goes to Texas Tech. And it's not like he had success at Texas Tech like he did at Indiana, but he took him to some tournaments and he was able to finish out his coaching career at a job that there was no pressure, no big deal, and he won some games. Maybe that's what Cal can do here. Maybe just the next 5, 6, 7 years he coaches at Arkansas and he takes him to some tournaments, maybe makes an Elite 8 run in one of those years, and then they're happy with that. If Arkansas fans are happy with that, then that's great. But I will say I'm a bit worried, though, with Arkansas fans because their expectations have been risen because of Musselman. They've gone to 2 Elite 8s with him and a Sweet 16. So what if Cal does worse than that? They're going to be disappointed.
Dave, of course, Louisville alum, with a good like that comment. Yeah.
Dave Brown, appreciate your video. He says lose a game for sell sign and yard. That's Kentucky. Yeah, I know, man. They're like Ohio State football.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're legit like Ohio State. I know football's different because there's less games and all that, but Ohio State loses a game and it's the end of Ryan Day. So yeah, I mean, basketball's different because there's more games, so there's more leeway. Plus, I don't think Kentucky's got a vendetta where, oh my goodness, if they lose to Louisville, oh man, the coach is fired. Like if Ohio State loses to Michigan, but still, I just think Arkansas's expectations have been risen. Because I know like Arkansas fans are pumped when the news broke that this was possibly happening earlier tonight. I mean, all the Arkansas fans were just going crazy. We're gonna get Cal. Is this possible? They're thinking big. They're thinking big, and I just don't want them to get their expectations too high. I think Cal's going to be fine there, but I don't think he's going to ever have the success there that he did at Kentucky. And if he does, I'll be shocked, but I don't see it. And I don't want them being disappointed after 5-6 years. And the best he did was take him to a Sweet 16 or something like that. And then they're like, Cal let us down. I can't believe it. He sucks and all that. And it's like, well, we kind of knew this was going to happen because he's kind of in the twilight of his coaching career. And he hasn't even made it far in the tournament in years anyway at Kentucky.
Someone on Twitter, a Kentucky fan on Twitter, says like people said like 12 hours ago, he's like people are saying that Cal is going to Arkansas. Shows how gullible people are. But yeah.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't go that far, but I mean, that person does have a point though, because again, you just see how Arkansas fans they believe legitimately that Calipari is the answer to what they're missing. Like he's going to be able to take them to heights higher than Musselman, and I'm just not seeing it. In what world is that a possibility? Musselman, I know people soured on him this year because of the fact that they didn't make the tournament and they had a losing record, but people were super high on Eric Musselman a couple years ago. I even remember when the Indiana job opened up back in 2021 that he was mentioned for the job. He wasn't a candidate, but he was mentioned because of what he was already doing at Arkansas. Like I said, 2 Elite Eights and a Sweet 16 at Arkansas. And then, yes, the bad season this year. But like I said, that's going to be tough to top for Cal. I mean, it's not like all Musselman did was take them to the tournament every year and then they had one run to the Sweet 16 or the round of 32 or something like that. No, I mean, he did good in those 3 seasons. And I mean, that went over Kansas when the last year. Remember that went over Kansas? That was huge. I remember that. And like Arkansas fans were just hoping that he would stay. And unfortunately, he didn't. And he took a quote unquote downgrade job for maybe, reasons why he didn't leave because of the fact that, it's a better job. He left because maybe he was worried about his job at Arkansas. But it's crazy that we went from a year ago, Arkansas fans were so happy with Musselman to now he's gone, and now they think Calipari is going to be even better. I don't know, man. I mean, Dave says getting Cal's one and dones next year, but Cal's one and dones haven't gotten Kentucky anywhere in the tournament recently. And like you said, Will, the only difference is that now the extra year, the pandemic year, is gone. That's gone after this season. This next season is going to be the last one where there's any players of that. Maybe that helps a little because you're not going to have any more of these 6-year seniors, but guys are still staying in college longer because of NIL.
Capital Library will be closing in 10 minutes. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, it might help him a bit. I don't know. I don't see it happening for Cal. I think his expiration date is passed.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, it's like a lot of people say, and I know it's different with coaches because these guys are like in their 60s, but you've seen the thing where like once you reach a certain age, you never change, right? That's what people claim, right? You hit your like upper 30s, lower 40s, and then you're just set in stone. Like all your tastes and every like music or technology, like you just stop, right? And then anything that's past this new old fangled stuff, I don't like it, right? That's kind of the way people are, right? So it's like with coaches, they reach a certain point in their coaching career where they just stop improving. They just stop getting better. And like whatever they believe about what they're doing as a coach, they just stick to that. And the game passes them by. I mean, we've kind of seen it with Izzo. It feels like lately, like they're not winning as much anymore. And Izzo's great. I'm not saying anything about Izzo, but you just kind of see that with certain coaches where they just stop improving and they stop, advancing and continuing to grow their coaching ability and the way the game's going. Kind of like how Sonny just said with Brad Underwood, he changed the style at Illinois to fit what's going on. But what if he stops in a few years and he just continues to do what he's doing? It feels like everybody does that. I mean, maybe there's some coaches that are different and they just constantly continue to grow and they continue to change their style even up to their final year. But it just seems like some coaches don't. I mean, look at even Leonard Hamilton. Like Leonard Hamilton had all that success and then it's over. Like they're not winning anymore. I know part of it's because he hasn't been able to keep his players, but that's the problem. Like he was a guy that brought guys in and wanted them to sit on the bench and then learn behind the starters, and then they kind of developed and improved. Well, those guys are like, adios, I don't like this. I want to play now. So it's just if you don't change with the game's going to leave you behind. That's basically the point. And a lot of these coaches are being left behind. It kind of just seems like Cal's reached that point. BR Rounder says, name a place that doesn't act that way after missed expectations. Well, I mean, every job's different, but to your point, I mean, if any job has success, the standards are going to be risen. I mean, you look at Loyola Chicago, like their standards are higher now than they were before that run. I mean, it's just the way it goes. Like look at Wichita State, Greg Marshall, and all that success, and now they're horrible. And they fired Isaac Brown.
I mean, I feel like Kentucky fans are just louder. Probably even, I mean, they're just louder than most other places because there's more fans of the team. That's just what the main difference is. They're just louder.
Ron Loud, he appreciates it for being here. Says Calipari left Kentucky for a bunch of picks. I love it, man. The hog jokes are going to be funny. BR Rounder says Arkansas fans have hated Cal for 15 years. The reason they're optimistic that Tyson is paying the salary and all their money can go to getting better players, Bust didn't have access to the same level of money. Yeah, I mean, it's crazy how your tune shifts. It's kind of like a fan base can't stand a player, right, until they transfer to your team. I've seen that before. Where like, I can't stand this player, and then he goes to your team, and it's like, I love this player because he's doing what he did at the other school for you. It's crazy. Like fan bases will embrace snarky coaches and snarky play, like guys that talk back and are kind of disruptive if they're on their team. You know what I'm saying? But like if they're not on your team and they're on the other team, like, oh, what a butthole. I don't like that guy. It's funny how that works. Mm-hmm. Sports Talk with Austin, appreciate your being here. He says Tobin Anderson at Iona. I don't know if you're referring to like missed expectations because he's following up what Rick Pitino did there, or if you're just saying there's no way he's a candidate for the Kentucky job. So I'm assuming that's what you mean, because that's a good point. Like you're following up what a guy did and he's not doing as well. Iona didn't make the tournament like Pitino did. So yeah, it's interesting, man. But I mean, like we've gone off for almost 2 hours. It's almost 2 a.m. I know we got to go to bed soon, but the chat is going crazy. But like I said, Will, whenever you got to go, just let me know, man. But I've had a blast talking about this, man. I never would have thought this, but the effects, the ripple effects of this is going to be crazy. Whoever Kentucky hires, and if it's a standing coach, if it's not like a Billy Donovan, if it's somebody like Brad Underwood or Nate Oates, then we're going to have to see who they end up hiring. And it's just going to be a domino effect.
Man, I just can't wait for Kentucky to hire Tom Crean.
Oh, my goodness. Tom Crean announcement. Tom Crean mentioned. I love it, man. Dude, Tom Crean, the bane of Indiana fans' existence, because when he got fired, they were like, good riddance, Tom Crean. You didn't get us back to where we wanted to be. And now every Indiana fan's like, I miss Tom Crean. I miss Tom Crean. He got us a couple Big Ten titles and Sweet 16s. I miss Tom Crean. But nobody likes Tom Crean outside of Indiana fans that kind of miss him. Like, because he didn't win at Georgia, which the problem with that is that you had Anthony Edwards, but other than that, he didn't have a lot of talent. And like when Severe Wheeler left for Kentucky and he had a couple other guys transfer out, that was it. It was done. It was history. After that, unfortunately, for Tom Crean, and he got fired, but I think he's enjoying commentating. He likes commentating or, doing like the broadcast stuff on ESPN, kind of like Jay Wright at CBS. So, I mean, if he's content with that, I feel like he's another coach, though, that the game might have passed him by a bit. Because when he was at Marquette and early on at Indiana, he was winning a lot with his run and gun type of style, but now every team does it. And his style's not, it doesn't stand out. And if he doesn't have a lot of talent, he struggles to win. Now, yeah, if he was at Kentucky, he'd have more talent, but I don't know. I think that's impossible, but that'd be hilarious.
All right. I got to get going, Jeffrey, but this was a lot of fun. Man.
I appreciate you for coming on. This was a blast of a show. Sports Talk with Austin. Jerome Tang is extremely loyal to K-State. Many teams have made him offers. Yeah, for sure. we'll see what he does with that. I don't think he's going to go to Kentucky, but we'll see, especially Arkansas a couple days early to Jackson. But Will's got to go. I mean, I don't really want to continue the stream with by myself, but I mean, I could, but Will's been fantastic as a co-host for the show. But I mean, maybe I could bring in a call link if a couple of you guys want to come on, but then we might be going on until 3 a.m. I might stay on for a few more minutes. If you got to go ahead and go, Will, then I definitely understand. But I appreciate it, man. I'll talk to you soon, man. But yeah, I mean, it's the crazy announcement, man, going on with all this stuff. But I'm gonna put the link in the chat. I might regret this because I don't want to stay up till 3 a.m. But here is the link if a couple of you guys want to call, and I'll probably cap it at like 2:30 though at the max. I can't stay on much longer than that. But I know everybody is buzzed for this news because I know I am. I would have never have done an emergency live stream like this unless it was big news like this. Calipari, I never would have thought he'd have left Kentucky. The guy's been there since I was like 5 years old. It's insane, him leaving for an inferior job. And we've discussed it from all different angles, and we pretty much know why he left, but it's crazy. Ron Lowney, he says tomorrow's going to be fun. I can't wait for it, Ron. I hope it's a good game. I don't know if I'm going to live stream the game or not. I might. It depends, especially if I stay up too late tonight, but it definitely depends if I have time tomorrow night. Maybe we'll live stream the game, but yeah, it's going to be fun. I just hope it's close. I don't want to blow out. I do not want UConn to win by 25 or some ridiculous amount, or even Purdue to win by a lot, which doesn't seem likely. But I just want it to be a fun game. It's close, and whoever wins, congrats to the winner. And I mean, Purdue, they have never won a title, which I know Purdue fans argue that because Purdue, they won a title back in the 1930s before the NCAA was founded. So they technically have won a title, but it doesn't count when it comes to national titles with the NCAA. And then with UConn, it would be their 6th title, which they'd be joining like the upper ranks of the Blue Bloods in that department. Since you've got, teams like Kentucky, I think they got 8 national titles. Carolina's got 6. So it's going to be interesting. Jackson will be interesting to see for sure. But I got the StreamYard link. If nobody wants to call in because it's too late, totally understand. But I'll stay live for a couple more minutes talking about various things, especially if you guys keep commenting in the chat. You guys have been fantastic tonight. I mean, this is like one of the best engaging live stream we've had in a long time. I mean, it's like we usually have good showings for the live stream for the tournament games. Those are a blast, but you guys have made this fantastic. I might have to do more streams like this where if there's big breaking news, just go live for it because you guys have been awesome. Sonny coming on was great as well. But I mean, we're at 2,309 subs. We're getting closer and closer to 2,500 as well. Trying to get there, making content as often as possible. We have shorts, videos out on the channel here at Only Talk Sports. If you guys are new and have not subscribed here and you're liking the content, you're staying up this late, which I know is because of the news with Cal, but I appreciate you being here. If you'd like to subscribe to the channel, I would really appreciate it. And leave a like as well. Really helps out the stream, gets the stream mentioned to other people. I got a Rumble account as well if you want to go follow me over there. But like Jack said, let's get Only Talk Sports to 2,500 subs. I would really appreciate a sub. It would definitely help out the channel. Planetary Healer, appreciate you being here. He says, who will Kentucky get? I mean, that's the ultimate question. I mean, that is definitely the ultimate question. Since the news has broken of Calipari leaving crazily enough to go to Arkansas, we've discussed probably 20 different candidates tonight. I mean, it's insane. 20 different candidates. And I mean, I think that it's been narrowed down to probably Nate Oates of Alabama or Brad Underwood of Illinois. Tad, he appreciates you being here. He says Jack Pilgrim said he's hearing Hurley's interested. If Hurley is legitimately interested and he's not playing Kentucky, if he's legitimately interested, then you got to get Hurley. I mean, he's the guy. He is the hot name in college basketball right now. And that would just be such a buzzkill for UConn to lose Hurley to Kentucky. Because, yes, technically Kentucky's a better job than UConn. But what UConn's been doing, I mean, they're entering that stratosphere. But overall, based on, when it comes to overall money and support and the fan base and the history, Kentucky's a better job. So if Kentucky can somehow, because they're avoiding the buyout. That's a big thing here. That's a big thing at play. That's what a lot of people are probably pointing out on Twitter right now. Kentucky has avoided the buyout of the $34 million with John Calipari leaving for the Arkansas job. So that means that they can throw all the money they got at whoever they want. And if that's Dan Hurley, if Dan Hurley is interested and they give him a massive contract, that might end up being the biggest contract of all the coaches in college sports right now, or in college basketball at least. Football, there's a lot of coaches making a lot of money, but they're going to throw a lot of money at him if he's going to have any shot of signing on. If they hire him, that would be just such a massive loss for UConn, because they've gotten so far back into the limelight of college basketball after Jim Calhoun, all the success he had as the UConn head coach back in the 90s and 2000s, after he unfortunately had to quit coaching because he was ill. Then the Kevin Ollie stuff. I know Kevin Ollie technically won a title, but that wasn't his title, man. It was Calhoun's players. But he technically won it. But then it fell out there, and then you now have Hurley, and Hurley's been doing great there. But to lose him and him to go to Kentucky, I don't know. I would just signal that UConn's just not among the elite. They're not at the top. They're just not capable of being in that stratosphere. But we got Austin Williams. Like I said, not going to stay on forever, but we got Austin Williams coming on to talk about the news going on. How you doing, Austin?
I'm doing pretty good. How about yourself, Jeffrey?
Oh, I'm doing great, man. This live stream's been a blast. The chat has made it amazing. I've appreciated everybody that's been in here tonight. The news is just blowing me away. I mean, I don't know about you, Austin, but did you see this coming? Like, did you see John Calipari leaving Kentucky for an inferior job?
To be honest with you, Jeffrey, I thought he would be at Kentucky until he retired. If I'm being completely and 100% honest with you, I figured he would stay at Kentucky until he was retired, because he just seemed like the type of guy that he's done so much good for Kentucky that he would just ride it out. Kind of like Coach K and Roy Williams did at Duke and Carolina. But, as they say, money talks.
Yeah, money talks. And I mean, a lot of people, it's interesting because Kentucky, they're kind of in, interestingly enough, good shape here, because they're disappointed with Cal. They're disappointed with him, and they don't have to pay a dime. Like Jackson said, Kentucky was definitely playing some celebratory music when Calipari left, because they realized they don't have to pay a single cent. They do not have to pay out 1 cent for this, which is nuts, because a lot of times when a coach leaves to another school, the other school has to pay the buyout. It's always how it works, but not here. I mean, legit, like I tweeted out earlier on Twitter, it's like Pontius Pilate. I mean, it's legit. They've washed their hands of the whole thing. The Calipari mess, they're done. They don't have to worry about the buyout anymore. And they theoretically have all the money in the world now to get whoever they want. So maybe Dan Hurley is on the table. But I don't know. I think it's crazy that Cal left, though. But, I mean, he did. I mean, do you think he'll have success at Arkansas? Do you think that he's going to do worse than Musselman, or do you think there's a shot he can do better?
You know, Jeffrey, I'm kind of 50-50 right now, because I'm sure Arkansas is going to have a lot of overhaul from Musselman's players. They're probably going to follow him to USC. So Cal's going to have to get his brand of players in, and I think he'll take Arkansas's recruiting levels to new heights. Love him or hate him, he always gets some of the best players in the world. Love him or hate him, you got to admit it. He gets the best players in the world. And Arkansas, if we're being historically honest, Jeffrey, it's been a while since they've been to the mountaintop. Musselman kind of brought them back up to the relevancy. And now that he's left, a lot of Arkansas fans have kind of been like, are we going to go back to the pitiful old Arkansas that we've seen in years past? But now that Calipari's there, I think he's going to take them to new heights. They're going to get a lot of great players. And I think there's going to be some success. Now, whatever the expectations will be a little different than what it was at Kentucky. Because Kentucky, they expect to win every year, no exceptions. Arkansas, Elite Eight and Final Four, they might be happy. They might be saying pig suey in the street.
Absolutely. I think the ironic thing, though, this is just my opinion, but I feel like since Eric Musselman, what he did there in the short time he was there, 2 Elite Eights, 1 Sweet 16, that's raised the expectations, though, at Arkansas. No, it's not Kentucky, and it will never be Kentucky. Obviously, I mean, Kentucky, their expectation, like you said, it's pitchforks, man. If you don't win or go to the Final Four at least or be in the title discussion, it's insane. But Arkansas, they're not on that level, but their expectations have been risen now. And the fact that you have Calipari coming in and Arkansas fans, they're pumped. They are jazzed up all over the internet right now with Calipari coming in, thinking that he's going to get them the heights that they haven't reached since Nolan Richardson. Like you said, Musselman got him close. He was getting them there, but still he wasn't what Nolan Richardson was. But they think Calipari can do it. And if he doesn't, like if he just at best gets him to maybe a couple Sweet 16s, maybe an Elite Eight, but he overall is about the same as Musselman, or they're not worse than Musselman by a little bit. Oh boy, the disappointment from Arkansas fans is going to be unreal. They're not even going to be able to handle it because they're expecting great things from Cal. A lot less than Kentucky expected from Cal, but they're expecting great things. And I don't want them to be disappointed. I legitimately don't. I like the Arkansas fan base. They have a rugged fan base. They care about their football and their basketball team. They're kind of one of those colleges where they've had some success in both sports, but have never been consistent in both. But they got great fan support. Their football stadium's always sold out. Their basketball stadium's always sold out. So I want them to have success. I like their fan base. You know, it would hurt, though, for them to be hurt if Cal doesn't give them what they're expecting or what they're hoping for. And I'm just afraid he might not be able to give them what they want. It's possible because he's going to bring in talent, like you said. But the game's different now. You know, you have to have experience. If you don't have experience, it's just very, very tough. Very, very tough to be able to win. We've seen it all around the place. Duke and Kentucky, they're getting eliminated early rest teams like UConn. They got all the experience. They're advancing far and winning titles these days. But that begs the question, though. Do you believe, Austin, that Dan Hurley legitimately could go to Kentucky?
That's interesting because I know that's probably going to be thrown around and everything. But look what he's built at UConn. If they win tomorrow night or tonight, as we sit right now, because as you said, it's really late, if they go back-to-back, they will have done something that only the 06-07 Gators have ever done, and that's went back-to-back. And here, I beg the question is, why would Dan Hurley want to leave that? Yes, Kentucky might be a blue blood and a better school, like NIL-wise and everything else, but you can make an argument, UConn, if they go back-to-back, their NIL is going to go up. Their fan support is going to go up even more than it already is. Like, UConn's just going to skyrocket even more. Like, players are going to be like, I want to be a part of that. Like, UConn is a place that Hurley has built up. Now, a lot of that has helped from teams that passed the Kimball Walkers, the past Napiers, who helped along this team, UConn, to get to where they got to. But Hurley has built it up into a monster, so to speak. I don't know why he would want to leave that monster, so to speak. If they could be, if they would go back to back, I mean, it just doesn't make sense to me, unless I'm overthinking it.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great point when you talk about, like, back then with UConn, with Kimball Walker, Shabazz Napier. Those guys were fun to watch. I was very little, but I did watch those guys play when they won those titles at the end of, you know, Calhoun's tenure, you know, with Kevin Ollie, the last one, but with Calhoun's players, like, very fun stuff. But, like, they were kind of like the underdog, not really expected to win. Now UConn, like, they've entered a different stratosphere here. I mean, they're like the top dog. People are now saying Dan Hurley's like the face of college basketball. I've even seen headlines of that, Austin, over Bill Self, over any of the other coaches that are still coaching. Calipari, which is nuts. And if Dan Hurley leaves UConn, especially if he wins another title tonight, if he does, and he gets UConn their 6th title, and like you said, all that's going to be beneficial to UConn. The NIL, the fan sport's going to go through the roof. I mean, their fan interest, it's already gone through the roof. I've seen a lot of people say, I'm a UConn fan my whole life. And it's like, yeah, were you? I mean, you're rooting for them now, but were you? I mean, I love when that happens. But the thing is that If he leaves, though, to go to Kentucky, where's that going to put UConn? Because UConn right now, there's no one else even on their level, it seems. Like they're in their own stratosphere, it just feels like. And whether that's sustainable or not, I don't know. But it feels like that they are. And for him to leave that and go to Kentucky, that it just feels like UConn's never going to be able to get back here. I know that's insane because Calhoun, after he was no longer the coach, a lot of people thought that they would never do it again. So maybe it's possible, but that would just be a tough blow. It really would, to lose Dan Hurley to Kentucky, a school that right now is technically in worse shape than UConn by a decent amount, but Kentucky's got the money. They got the fans. They got more titles than UConn, even if UConn does win a sixth. That would just really hurt for UConn. But, I mean, do you think he would take the job? I mean, do you really legitimately think that he would leave? Because, I mean, I don't know. I would say no, but more people are saying yes. I don't know.
Here's the thing, Jeffrey. I think he would look at the offer. But if he's like Jerome Tang, and if he's loyal to the team that he's built and the culture he's built at his program, he'll be like, nah, I respect your offer, Kentucky. I understand the rich history, but you're the team now. So
yeah, absolutely. And the other candidate, the other person that everybody's pointing out there, and you see it on screen, Baylor Scott Drew. He's the other candidate that I think's off the table because me personally, I don't think Dan Hurley or Scott Drew will. But Scott Drew, I mean, he's had a lot of success at a program that wasn't supposed to have success, won that title. And does he want a chance to coach at a program like Kentucky? The only thing is, though, he doesn't have that pressure at Baylor. And if he stays at Baylor, they're going to build a statue of the guy. They're probably going to build a statue of the guy anyway. But they'll build a statue of that guy if he stays at Baylor and he continues to win. Maybe he can get another title there. To me, it would just be insane for him to leave.
Yeah, and here's my thing, Jeffrey. Scott Drew, we talk about this all the time. We talked about it when we talked about Baylor in our March Madness stream. We talked about how Baylor's expectations is they just want to make at least a Sweet 16 bid every year. That's like their goal, like Sweet 16, Elite 8. But then when they won the Natty, it's kind of like, okay, now your expectations has risen. And to your point, would Scott Drew want to take a job at Kentucky knowing like it all comes down to the culture, in my opinion. I know I sound like a broken record right about now, but it's what it is. It's culture. If you have a great culture, Bill, why would you want to leave that and go to a school, and no offense to any Kentucky fans watching, but a culture that can be toxic at times if you're not winning? I mean, look at Cal. He won so many games. He had arguably a lot of the best NBA talent in history. They almost went unbeaten in 2015, and then they still complain about it. And this is no shot at anybody. You're going to get that with a lot of fan bases. North Carolina, even you could attest to this, Jeffrey. They got mad at Roy Williams, I'm sure, a couple years when he didn't win it. I mean, look at him after the Villanova game in 2016, the Chris Jenkins shot. They weren't happy with that. And, it's just like some fan bases are a little spoiled. And Baylor, I feel like they've gotten to the point with Scott Drew where they're like, they love him and they want him to stay, and they realize he's going to get them to where they want to go.
Yeah, I'm in a complete agreement with that, which is why I think both of them are off the table. But Dan Hurley, he might be tempted. He might be that kind of guy. We'll see. But the other candidates, real quick, get closer to 2:30, but we still got tons of people watching. So appreciative of you guys all being here. You guys have been fantastic in the chat tonight. Leave a like and subscribe if you wish. I really would appreciate it. It would really help out the channel. But you talk about the other two coaches that are on screen. Alabama's Nate Oates and Illinois' Brad Underwood. Nate Oates is the other one that I'm on the fence on, that I could see it happening, but I could kind of see it not, because Alabama just gave him a contract extension. I thought maybe he'd be off the table now that Michigan, he was a candidate for that job, and they gave him the contract extension, but he's a candidate now for this job. What would Nate Oates do possibly?
Here's the thing, Jeffrey. He just took Bama to their first Final Four, too. That's the thing. It's like he just made history at Bama. And it's like And these are the coaches that they're throwing out there. And I get it. It's part of what we do. What is part of sports media? Is this coach going to do that or that coach? Because they're hot commodities, so to speak. But it's just like Nate Oates just went to a Final Four with Alabama. And whether we like, if you watch the UConn game, they were in it there for a while. But UConn was just too deep and too talented at the end. And it's like Bama, they're not that far off from getting to where they want to be again. It's just like, it wouldn't be a lateral move because I believe Kentucky is a little bit of a better program than Bama. But Nate Oates has built it up to where it's top 5 in the SEC, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely a better job now than it was before. I mean, when Avery Johnson was the coach and they had Colin Sexton and they barely made the tournament that year, they squeaked in. That team shouldn't have got in, but they barely got in the tournament and like they weren't that great. And then now with Nate Oates, like they've gotten a whole lot better. And it's weird how like Musselman was like the hot name in the SEC with Arkansas, and now he's leaving, right, to go to USC. And then Nate Oates has kind of filled that spot, but then he could take the Kentucky job. And like I said, Alabama just gave him a hefty contract extension. So, and I know Kentucky could probably afford the buyout because of the fact, and I know that they would have to pay for it, but they probably could afford it because they don't have to pay Cal anything, but still, would they do that? I don't know. I think Nate Oates, to me, would stay at Bama, but I could be wrong. I mean, he has been a guy on an upward trajectory. I think he was coaching at like a high school like 11 years ago or whatever. And then he moved up to, got his way to Buffalo, had success there in Alabama. So he could be that guy. I don't know. But like, this is the great point that Ron made, Ron Lowney. He says not many successful coaches want that pressure. You've said it before already, tons of times to reiterate, Austin. It's all about the pressure. Which coach wants the pressure? Another coach is possibly a candidate, Brad Underwood, because he's at Illinois. He's had a lot of success now there with Illinois, and they've another team on an upward trajectory. He's on the older side, though. He's a bit older. But I don't know. He's a candidate for the job. I mean, it's possible. I could see him going there. And Sonny Verma earlier of Illini Cast, he was definitely speaking highly of Brad Underwood. So I could see Kentucky being tempted by the possibility of him if the other names that we've already mentioned don't happen. But do you think that he would take the job if it's thrown at him, if the other guys don't want the job? Or do you think that Kentucky would even look elsewhere, not him?
I think they would give Brad Underwood a look because he's coming off a Big Ten championship season, an Elite Eight appearance. I feel like he's one of those coaches, I feel like he would, and this is no disrespect to Illinois, but I feel like he would want to try to test the waters maybe in SEC country with Kentucky and be like, because he's taken Illinois to new heights, kind of like a lot of these coaches I've spoke of. A lot of these coaches have built programs up and taken them to where they've gotten to, and now it's like Brad Underwood. I feel like he's reached a ceiling in Illinois. Like they've had a lot of talented teams, but they just fell short, losing in the Sweet 16s, missing the Sweet 16s, missing the Elite Eights, kind of like Arizona with Tommy Lloyd and company. I know I feel like Illinois has been that team that's had a lot of talent, but they've missed out on winning titles and making Final Four appearances. I feel like Brad Underwood has maybe reached his ceiling in Illinois. And I feel like maybe he would go test the waters at Kentucky and maybe try with that group of talent and see how he does in SEC play. I think if Kentucky throws an offer at him, I think he would definitely would take it. I feel like he would like to go to Kentucky.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think that he would take the job as well if he's given a great offer. And I think your point that you made about reaching a ceiling, that's very important when it comes to programs, because a lot of programs do reach their ceiling. And when you're a coach and you kind of know that, like, this is the best it's going to get. We're not going to get any better than this. And if I don't keep being at the top of my game, we can start regressing. And then all the appeal I had to possibly get a job like this is gone. Like this is Brad Underwood's chance, right? Like if he's offered the job, he's not going to be able to get another job like this. And then he's going to probably be too old. Or like I said, maybe Illinois starts to regress and they're not winning as much because he's not getting the right players or he's not getting enough talent. and then they start to fade, and then his appeal is gone. So sometimes you got to strike while the iron's hot. I will say though, and this is the sad thing about the era that we live in, with the portal and the NIL and everything, about you just do not give coaches time anymore. Because you look at like Painter. If you look at Matt Painter 10 years ago, and he was already at Purdue for a decade, they hadn't really won anything. They made a couple runs in the tournament, but they hadn't really won anything. But they've kept him, and he stayed there, and now this is their chance. Maybe Brad Underwood, this is what Sonny said of Illini Cast. He said that if Brad Underwood stays at Illinois, there's a chance that maybe, even though this could be Illinois' ceiling, but if they keep investing in basketball and they keep building up their fan support and they're not, maybe they could get there one day. Maybe in 5 years, 6, 7, 8 years, Brad Underwood, toward the end of his career, could get Illinois to a title game. But you never know, though, if the coach doesn't stay. And that's the sad thing. Because I feel like we're in an environment now where, like, you take a Nate Oates or you take an Eric Musselman or you take a Brad Underwood, and every time a coach has a lot of success at a program like that, and you take a couple Elite Eights or a couple Sweet 16s, they're gone. They just bolt to a better program, and then you're not sure. You're never going to know what that program was capable of. You're never going to know if Illinois is capable of being a title contending type of program. Same thing with Baylor and Scott Drew. It took him 20 years for him to win a title. Same thing with possibly Painter at Purdue. He could maybe win a title tonight. Patience is a key, and you have to have the coach stay. Now, it don't always happen that way. I'm not saying that. A lot of coaches be in a program for 30 years and never advance past this round of 32 at some schools. Like the Oakland coach was at Oakland for 40 years before his team finally won a tournament game. He made the tournament, won a game. So, like, it's a different program. But you know what I mean? Like, you could be there forever and never have a lot of success. But some of these programs aren't capable of winning if they could keep the coach. But sadly, a lot of them can't because the coach leaves.
And Jeffrey, goes to your point, like a program like Oakland, they don't have high expectations, so they're able to develop and keep their coach a long time. But these coaches you see on the screens, not so much Alabama now maybe going forward, but like Baylor and Illinois, they have expectations. They want to see Sweet 16, Elite Eight. They want to see championships hung in the banner, in the Raptors. And they don't get time to develop these coaches. It's like look at Indiana. They're a great example. Tom Crean, he was there for a bit. He was winning, and then they got hit with their whole issue. And then Indiana didn't give him a chance to recoup all of it. And then he went to Georgia, and Georgia never gave him any time. It all depends on what program you go to.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all about what program you go to, and it also takes like the coach. Like the coach, you have to give him time, and if you don't give him time, or if he's not the right coach, sometimes you never know. Like sometimes you make the right decision to fire somebody because maybe he's not good, but then at other times, maybe if you had given him some more time, he could have won, and you just never know because you fired him.
Yeah, 100% agree. Like a lot of the smaller schools, they give their coaches times because no expectations are put upon them. These bigger schools, they got expectations to win titles. Now, some bigger schools, like you said, Matt Painter and Purdue, he gave them time, and look where they're at now. They're playing for a natty tonight. So, like you said, all depends on the situation.
And it's crazy, too, because a lot of these smaller schools, I mean, they lose the coaches as well. I mean, you got Rick Pitino leaving Iona to go to St. John's. Now, Iona's never heard from again. Shaheen Holloway, he left St. Peter's to go to Seton Hall. Now, obviously, St. Peter's did make the tournament again, but it's a bad example. But you get what I'm saying? Like, they weren't the same St. Peter's. They didn't advance. They didn't do anything. Loyola Chicago, they made the Final Four with Porter Moser, and even though they're still solid with Drew Valentine, they're not the same. And that's what happens with these smaller schools. They always lose the coach to a bigger school. Now, the Oakland coach, he's not going to leave, because he's older. But these younger ones that have success, they're gone. I mean, Will Wade went from a smaller school to a bigger school. Now he's back to a smaller school, but he's going to end up leaving McNeese State. He's not going to stay there. It's just they can't keep their coach because if they're tempted with a bigger job, they're gone. Dusty May at Florida Atlantic. I mean, that's just the way it goes. If the small school has success, the coach is out the door in a couple years.
Yeah, and another great example is Richard Pitino. He was at Minnesota. He won a tournament game. And then he goes to New Mexico and wins Mountain West this year. He makes a backwards leap, so to speak, but it all worked out for the better. So there is instances where they make the backwards leap and it works fine. But then there's other instances, like you mentioned, Jeffrey, Dusty made of Michigan. These smaller schools get plucked easier because these big brands come in and say, here's all this money we're going to give you, yada, 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 private jet, yada, yada, yada. And we promise, and the coach is going to be, I'll promise you Elite Eight, Final Fours. I'm going to get you back to your glory days.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's crazy. But I will have to ask you, Austin, before we wrap this up, because it's getting really late. Still got a lot of people here, so appreciative of that. You guys have been awesome tonight. But have to ask you, Austin, who do you believe will be the next head coach of Kentucky? Out of everybody that could possibly be, that we talked about, even people maybe we haven't discussed, who do you think it's going to be? Just wild guess.
I'm going to go out on a limb, and I don't know why I get this feeling, but I'm going to throw out a wild guess, and I'm going to say Mark Few.
Ooh. Oh, Mark Few's a name we haven't even talked about tonight. That's a wild card. He's on the older side. Anything's possible. I don't see it, but that's a wild card guess. And what's your reasoning for Mark Few? Why would you think that he would go there? That's a wild card.
I was logistically thinking. I think he's reached his. It's about his ceiling. I kind of see him as like Brad Underwood. I really think he's reached his ceiling at Gonzaga, and they're in the WCC, and maybe he wants to test new waters. And Kentucky's a great place for that because they're an SEC country. He wants to go to a bigger and better conference, get more money, and play with possibly the better talent and better overall, won't say fan base, but better overall environment. I think he's ran his course at Gonzaga, in my opinion. He's like Brad Underwood. He's kind of hit a ceiling. They've come so close to winning a natty before, but I just feel like that was, if he didn't win it those 2 times that he got there, I just don't think he's going to get back there. And it's no disrespect to him, but Gonzaga is not like all these other schools that could just pluck players from anywhere. They have to do it the old-fashioned way, recruit.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great point about the ceiling and him being at Gonzaga for a very long time, and maybe he can't ever get him back to a title. I will say he could just retire. He could retire, but maybe he wants to take a crack at Kentucky. We'll see. That's a very interesting guess. I mean, Planetary Healer says Nate Oates. That's his guess. He thinks it's going to be Nate Oates. I will say that I know it's kind of a cop-out, but I think that these are the most likely, in my opinion, like these couple of names. I think out of the 2 that are impossible per se, Baylor Scott Drew and Dan Hurley at UConn, I think it's Dan Hurley. If it's between those 2, I think it's Dan Hurley. I don't see Scott Drew doing it. I think he's going to stay at Baylor. I feel like Dan Hurley, he could make the jump. I could see him doing it. But the realistic ones, if it's between Alabama's Nate Oates and Illinois' Brad Underwood, I think it's going to be Brad Underwood. I don't think Nate Oates is going to leave Bama after they gave him that big contract extension. Brad Underwood, I mean, Illinois is closer to Kentucky. He's a little bit older, so it could be his last chance to have a big job like that. I think he could do it. Maybe stays in Illinois, but I think between those 2, it would be Brad Underwood. And then of the wild cards, I would either say Billy Donovan or it would be possibly Rick Pitino, which isn't going to happen, but that would be a wild card. I could maybe see him return. It could happen. You never know. To make amends, right, after him leaving Kentucky the way he did for the NBA. Or it could be Billy Donovan because of the fact that he had success at Florida, went off to the NBA. Maybe he's sick of that. But, I mean, obviously the NBA is a little bit easier than college recruiting these days. I mean, the NBA just let a bunch of guys run around and shoot. So maybe it won't be him. But I would say if I had to just guess out of all those names, I would go with Brad Underwood. My mind could change, though. My mind could change based on the evidence and the names that are going to be thrown out. But of all the guys we talked about tonight and the way I feel right now at 2:31 a.m. on the East Coast, right on the eve of the night the national championship is going to be coming on, I would go with Brad Underwood. But you never know. Brandon like it. He says Underwood will be the next Billy Gillespie, Billy Gillespie didn't have a lot of success at Kentucky, so he's not high on Underwood. But go ahead, Austin.
I will say before we wrap up, that's an interesting choice. The only there's very few choices because Kentucky is a hard job. I wonder if Kentucky takes someone off their bench that, kind of like Duke and Carolina did. Like, if they go down the bench and be like, hey, like Coach K and Roy Williams anointed John Shire and Hubert Davis. Like, these are the guys I want. Like, they had the input. Maybe Cal has some input and says, hey, my assistant coach here, I really believe he would be good for this job. Could they pull a Duke Carolina and just anoint the assistant coach or a coach on down the bench?
Yeah, that's a great point. And somebody, I can't find the comment because it was a while back, but somebody in the comment in the chat, they said that possibly could be Orlando Antigua, which is an assistant coach for Kentucky, great recruiter with the Wildcats. They threw his name out there. He'd be the only one that it could be if they were to do that. But I think the difference is between those is because of the fact that when you look at a John Shire or a Hubert Davis, those guys were on the bench for a long time. Especially when you look at Hubert Davis. He was at Carolina for like a decade, right? And Shire, I think obviously he played, like the alma mater and everything. Like, it just, I guess, for Coach K, he taught him everything he knew. And he was there long enough that they felt comfortable making that hire. The problem with Kentucky is a lot of their assistant coaches, they've gone in and out. They haven't always been there, right? It hasn't been the same guy. It hasn't been like one guy that's been Calipari's right-hand man, for years. I don't see that happening. You could be right, Austin. Maybe that's where they go. But I think it's a little bit different of a situation with Kentucky. Whereas, plus, I feel like, and I'm not saying there's not a good culture at Kentucky, but I feel like Carolina, especially Duke, we know with Duke, right, the brotherhood, how they got the brotherhood and all that, where they're very tight-knit, and all the former players, like, they still talk to each other all the time. And you know what I'm saying? Like, the culture at Duke is just different. Like, they're so interconnected. And even Carolina is kind of that way, even though they don't have a brotherhood or anything. They're similar. And like how Coach K and Roy Williams are still involved, right, with the programs and everything. And like they're always at the games and stuff, especially Roy Williams is always there. And I feel like Kentucky's not like that. Cal's leaving Kentucky for Arkansas, right? So like the culture's not there.
Yeah.
It's not a deal where Roy retired, Coach K retired, and they had a guy on the bench.
Yeah,
so I just
that's a good point. Yeah, that's a great point, Jeffrey, not to cut you off, but that's a great point. Roy Williams and Coach K, they retired. That makes a whole lot of difference than just up and leaving. Retiring means they're just going to sit on the sideline and not worry about coaching anymore. Cal's like leaving them, so there may be some ill will. That's a good point.
Mm-hmm. Plus, I just don't know how involved like the assistant coaches were with what they were doing, because I know a lot of them like were just recruiters. I'm not sure. I just feel like overall Kentucky's culture is just so different that it definitely that's not going to happen. But you never know. Crazier things have happened. Calipari leaving for Arkansas, anything's possible at this point. I mean, Ron Lowney, we talked about some of these names already. Brad Stevens. He threw out Brad Stevens. That's not happening. He had success at Butler. Brad Stevens, and Indiana didn't get him, so he's not going to Kentucky.
He had success at Butler. He took him to a couple tournaments, but once again, Butler's a smaller school. And I know everyone's saying, look what he did with the Celtics. He took them to the conference finals, and the Celtics are one of the biggest brands of basketball. There's levels to this too. We got to remember that there's levels to this as well. Not everything translates.
Absolutely. And plus, I think his job it's a comfortable job with the Celtics as long as they're winning. His seat's safe. Like, he's not going to ever lose his job as long as the Celtics are winning. And they're in like their, I guess you would say, prime right now with Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown still being on the younger side. They could maybe win a couple titles. Like, it would make no sense for Brad Stevens to leave.
Yeah. And I mean, and that's not discrediting, but it's just like levels to it. NBA, college, completely different. Like college, you got NIL money. You could be like, here, I'll buy you this fancy sports car. You want to come play at my school? NBA, you just pay them the big money and they go do it themselves. There's levels to it.
Yeah, I mean, nobody's saying, I said this earlier, nobody's saying Joe Mazzulla is like a fantastic coach or anything, the Celtics coach. Like, no one's saying he's better than Popovich or anything, right? Or something like, or Phil Jackson back in the day with the Bulls. Like, no one's saying that. but it's because he's got the team. The Celtics have a fantastic team, and he's just like, go out there and shoot, right? You know, or you're tired, Tatum, come to the bench for a few minutes. Like, I don't know. Like, I'm not saying they don't do anything, but coaching in the NBA, if you got a fantastic team, you're good to go. You just got to make sure the players aren't splitting hairs with each other or with the coaches. They're all chill and they're happy with what they're doing and their roles on the team and all that. As long as that's good to go, then the coach is fine and everything's good to go. I mean, like literally Adrian Griffin with the Bucks, he was winning games, but they got rid of him because they claimed that the players didn't like him or whatever. So, like, then they moved on and got Doc Rivers, which Doc Rivers has basically never won anything outside of the one championship with the Celtics. So, I don't know. That's just a whole different landscape. I don't see Brad Stevens happening at all. Ron Lowney mentions another name that I've already said earlier is not going to happen. Jay Wright is not leaving his broadcasting job, and a guy that was at Villanova who would not take any other big job. He doesn't like NIL in the portal, which is why he retired. I don't see him coming back to college basketball.
I think Jeffrey, not to cut you off, but he's like a kid again. You watch him, he enjoys being at the broadcast booth and in the studio with Charles and them talking about the games. Y'all see him during March. He's like a kid, and he's like, and he'll give his insights every now and then, but he's enjoying himself. Like, I think he's content doing what he's doing. I think he's happy with what he's left behind in college basketball. I agree with you, Jeffrey. I don't think he would go anywhere else other than back to Villanova if they gave him a phone call.
Absolutely. I mean, the thing is like, for him, it's like seeing the game all over again. You know, kind of like us when we're watching TV, you know, as kids and even now young adults and everybody in chat, we're watching the games and we're enjoying it. And we try to break down the games. Like, he knows the game way better than we do. I mean, because he's coached and he's dealt with all this stuff and he's been a fantastic coach at a school at Villanova that, you know, they had one title, but he was able to win them 2 more and all that. Like, they hadn't really had super, you know, ton of success in the past, but he elevated the program and won with less talent. So, like, he knows so much more than we do. But he's now in the booth and he's getting to watch the game from, like, our point of view again, even though he knows more of the game and he's enjoying it. And like I said, a big reason why he left is because he knew with the changing landscape of college sports, especially with, you know, with the NIL and the portal, I just do not see Jay Wright leaving for a job like Kentucky, especially when he was offered jobs like this when he was at Villanova. He was offered the Carolina job after Roy Williams retired. He was offered it. Some people say that was not true, but I think he was. I think it was legit. And he didn't take the job. And if he didn't take the job, why would he go to Kentucky now that he left Villanova, a school that he loved to coach at, a school that he did more with less, to now go to Kentucky where the fan base is absolutely insane? And nothing against the fan base. Kentucky fans deserve the right to be crazy because they've won a lot of games. They love their team, and they want them to win. Nothing wrong with that. But Jay Wright's not going to do it. Everybody keeps throwing it around. It's not going to happen. Now, this is funny. Dave Brown says Kenny Payne's available. Kenny Payne is available.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, my
Comment
goodness.
of the night right there. Kenny Payne is available.
For heaven's sakes. But I will say this, though, Jeffrey. I'm kind of glad that he took John Calipari is gone. Think about this, Jeffrey. Kentucky Louisville will have a fresh new slate. A new rivalry will be born. Pat Kelsey at Louisville and whoever Kentucky decides to get. It's going to be fun. Now that we don't have to worry about Calipari anymore and his non-righteousness self.
Yeah, that's the way a lot of Indiana fans right now are looking at with Purdue. Like, Zach Edey's going to be gone after this year. So they feel like, well, now it's going to be even again. Like, we can beat them, you know what I'm saying? Even though they did beat him with Edey. But you know what I mean? Like, it's going to be fair. And it kind of feels like that with Louisville with no more Calipari. Louisville's got their new coach in Pat Kelsey, which people were throwing out Pat Kelsey to Kentucky, which was funny because, like, Louisville just got him. Like, no way. I mean, he's not gonna take the Kentucky job.
Here's the thing, Jeffrey, and here's something interesting too. Before we go, just an interesting factoid is Indiana, Kentucky's coming back in a couple years, or I believe next year. And Cal, since he's gone now, does that mean Kentucky could go play at Assembly Hall now? Are we going to get a home and home? instead of this home and then you go play in Lucas Oil because, oh, for heaven forbid, Cal doesn't like the Indiana fans. They're outrageous. Oh,
I am so
just
glad
throwing
you
that
brought
out.
that up, Austin. I'm so glad. I did not even think about bringing that up. I said, and this is funny. This is so funny because none of you guys in chat probably watched my video that I made around 8 months ago about, or however long ago it was when the news was announced that Kentucky-Indiana series was returning. But if you guys did watch it, you know what I said. I said in the video, I think John Calipari is not going to be the head coach of Kentucky when they have to go play at Assembly Hall that one time. I said he's not going to be there. And lo and behold, he's not even there before the series even began. So Calipari, barring somehow, some way, Indiana faces Arkansas somehow in the tournament or in some event, he's never going to play Indiana again, and it's definitely not going to be in Assembly Hall. So there you go, Calipari. You got your wish. You do not have to play at Assembly Hall, but that's funny. I was right. I said that he was not going to be the coach anymore when they had to play at Assembly Hall. I knew it. Like, I had a major feeling that he was not going to coach. He did not want to play at Assembly Hall anymore. He just got that deal done because he knew he wasn't going to be the coach that long. But I don't think anybody expected to be this early, and I know I didn't. I thought maybe probably by like 2026, around when that series was going to begin, but it wasn't going to be at Assembly Hall yet. I thought Kentucky would either boot him out because he wasn't winning enough, or he would just retire. But that's funny. I'm so glad you brought that up because, man, what I said came to pass just a lot earlier than I thought it would be. That is so funny. But we got a lot of other comments here. Ron, he pointed out Nate Oates. It could be him. He believes that it will be him. Tommy Lloyd, I don't see that one happening. Don't know if you have any thoughts on that one, Al.
No, I'm like you, Jeffrey. I think he's staying he'll be staying in Arizona.
Absolutely. He's got to win more, too. Like, Kentucky wants to advance far in the tournament, but Tommy Lloyd hasn't even done that yet. So, like, not happening. This is a good one. Mike Krzyzewski. Not happening either. Like, no way.
Now, Ron, I appreciate your optimism, but Coach K is not going to another blue blood, especially not Kentucky. And you don't even think about it. He's Duke through and through. That's like asking Roy Williams to go play for Kentucky. It's not happening. Good thought, though. I appreciate the optimism, but it's not going to happen.
Ron Lowney also said Kelvin Sampson. That is a candidate that I have not seen on any of the lists, like the premature lists that have been done already, like the one on screen showing the candidates. I haven't seen Kelvin Sampson's name thrown around. But Kelvin Sampson is a coach that I could see it. Because even though we know his baggage in the past, how the Indiana got destroyed after he got fired with the allegations, and the same thing happened when he was at Washington State back in the day. But now with the rules being changed and no programs get in trouble right now, maybe he is on the older side, though. He's older. So maybe Kentucky would want a younger guy that would be there longer. But I could see him taking the job, though, if they offered it. He would. He'd be one of those that would.
Yeah, the only thing that worries me about him, Jeffrey, is he's a culture changer. He's a little more on the rougher side of things. He's got more of a rough and tough, you're going to play defense if you want the rock. Like, no defense, no Rocky. As the old saying goes in football, you want the Rocky, you need the blocky. And Kelvin Sampson, if you want the bally, you gonna play defense. And I don't know if Kentucky players would be down for that. They would be like, I don't want to play defense. Well, too bad you don't get the ball.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he would have to recruit entirely new players because the players they currently have, they would not be down for that. Ron also says Mick Cronin. I mean, maybe a year or two ago that would have been possible, but after the way UCLA was this past season, that's definitely off the table.
Yeah, I agree, Jeffrey. That's one. UCLA took a big-time tumble. They lost a lot of talent, and Sebastian Mack, he was a great player, but they just lost a lot of talent. And Mick Cronin's stock, I think, went down just a little bit.
I still think he's a good coach, and I know you probably do as well, and a lot of people do, which is why Ron mentioned him, but it's just not going to happen because of the season that they had. And the last one he did in this long list, I love the names. I love the candidates, Ron. You did a great job with it. Some are funny. But Shaka Smart, that's one that I'm not really seeing either. I feel like he would be committed to Marquette because of the fact he's from Wisconsin. He went on the journey to VCU and then Texas. Didn't really work out at Texas. I think that he's committed to Marquette. I could be wrong, though, but I think that he would stay there.
Yeah, I'm with you 100% on that, Jeffrey. I think he's committed to Marquette. I think he's like you've seen how heartbroken he was when they lost to NC State. Like, he's committed. He wants to get Marquette back to the level that Marquette fans want to get to. Like, I feel like he's committed.
Absolutely. And what's funny, I found another candidate. We've gone through every name. I mean, we've been live for almost 3 hours. We've gone through like every name in the book, basically. But I found another candidate that nobody has said yet on another list. TJ Otzelberger. He's on a list here.
Oh my gosh.
The Iowa State coach.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Either we're just throwing names out to be throwing names out, because I don't know if I can take this one as serious, because it's like he's only been at Iowa State, I believe, 3 years. And like, I don't think he'd be ready to leave that just yet. I mean, he got him to a Sweet 16. I mean, look at the incredible job. They won the Big 12 this year. I think he's still got a lot more to prove at Iowa State before he's ready to make that leap.
Absolutely. I'm 100% in agreement. He's not ready for that type of job, I don't think, and I don't even think Kentucky would even offer it to him, but I just saw his name on the list. And we've gone this far, might as well have thrown his name out there. Tad, he says, I'm a Kentucky fan. Just wanted you to know this has been fun, and you've done a great job tonight. I appreciate that, Tad. You guys made this show awesome. All your comments tonight, it was a blast for sure. I really appreciate it, but thanks a lot, Tad. And he says Hurley is interested, but is it for the job or for UConn to pony up? Yeah, that's interesting, because he could be acting interested, because that's what some people are saying, that he's interested just to get UConn to pay him a lot more. And I mean, that's the way a business goes, right? I mean, a coach can be a businessman. He's got leverage because he's winning, especially if he wins this other title. He's going to be like, do you really want to lose me, UConn? Do you want to lose me? I can go over here. They're offering me $10 million a year at Kentucky. Do you want to lose me? And then they offer him $11 million, right? It's like Kalen DeBoer. I mean, Washington offered him like $8.5 million, but Alabama gave him like $11 million. So where'd he go? He went to Alabama. So yeah, UConn probably is going to have to pay him. They're going to have to pay him more, quite possibly more than what Kentucky's going to offer him, if they do offer him, which they probably will. And if he acts interested in the job, that's going to force UConn's hand. So yeah, I mean, he's just being a businessman at that point, if that's the case.
Yeah, I agree with you 100% on that, Jeffrey. Who knows, Jeffrey? At this point, maybe our names will show up on this coaching list. Jeffrey from Only Talk Sports. Rumor to Kentucky. Good luck, Jeffrey. I hope you get the job.
And then they'll be like, only one caveat. You can never talk positively about Indiana ever again. They're a failing program. They're horrible. You can't talk about Indiana. I'm like, oh, no. I'm like, I don't know if I can do that. I'm like, well, here's $10 million. You're going to do it. I'm like, I mean, I don't know, man. I mean, that's a lot of money, but I mean, I try to speak honestly. I don't like trashing fan bases, man. I got to give Indiana the credit, but that would be funny though. That would be hilarious. I mean, if our names were on the list, oh boy, I mean, I wouldn't be a bit surprised at this point. Dave Brown says Hurley's name isn't loved in Lexington. That's interesting, but go ahead, Austin.
I was just gonna say, be like, and another thing, we're not scheduling North Carolina until tournament time, guys. We're not gonna beat North Carolina.
That's so funny, man. I mean, that's hilarious. But yeah, that's interesting with Dave Brown saying Hurley's name isn't loved in Lexington, because I mean, you would think that they would be okay with that. I mean, to me, I don't know about you, but I feel like Hurley and Calipari are kind of similar coaches in the way that they act. I'm not saying in the way that they coach, but kind of in the way that they act on the floor. I mean, the antics. I mean, Hurley going crazy with all the facial expressions. Calipari in his day used to kind of do that a lot. I mean, remember he would stand out on the floor. I would remember watching the TV and I'd be like, Calipari, get back in the coach's box. He'd just be on the floor. He doesn't do that as much anymore now that he's older, but when he was younger, he used to do it all the time.
Yeah, it's like one of those things, Jeffrey, especially when you watched him every year, especially as a Louisville fan. It's just like every time a foul would go against his team, it would be a crisis. But that's a whole nother thing for another time. But yeah, it's just funny. Oh, I will say Dan Early, he does mention his lucky underwear a lot. I don't think Cal ever did that.
Yeah, that's different. Kevin Keats, I mean, he talked about his lucky shoes and pants or whatever, something like that. But underwear, that's a little interesting. But we got Jackson coming in. Appreciate you for coming on, Jackson. We are going to wrap it up soon, but still got a lot of people in chat, so I'll stay alive for now. But I appreciate the chat, and I appreciate you coming on, Jackson.
Oh, thank you for having me on. I just, I was sorry that I turned you down due to being on After Dark, so I thought maybe this little chat thing could make up for it.
Oh, absolutely, man. For sure. I appreciate you coming on. You're good, man. Obligations over there. I mean, definitely understand, man.
But luckily, I'm off next Sunday, so I can relax and maybe sunbathe.
Yeah, Ron Lowney mentions the coach for St. Mary's because he could have more success with more talent. I think Randy Bennett's another type of guy. He would be committed to the school that he's at. I think he's going to stay at St. Mary's. I don't know what you guys feel about that, but to me, he's been there for so long that he's either going to retire or he's just going to continue to stay at St. Mary's for a few more years.
Oh, he hasn't. If he hasn't left by now, he's never going to leave.
For sure. And then Ron Lowney mentioned Pope from BYU. Same thing, especially with the religious as well. I don't see Pope, but go ahead, Austin.
I was just going to say to comment on, I agree with you on the Randy Bennett. The Pope from BYU, I would give him 2 or 3 more years before we put him on any coaching list. BYU had great success their first year in the Big 12. I want to see if he sustains that system. Can't speak. Sustain. Keeps the success going because BYU in football, they struggled this year, but in basketball they did really well. And we thought maybe football would be a little better than their basketball. And their basketball did really good in the Big 12. I want to see at least 1 or 2 more years of them making the tournament in this Big 12 climax when Kansas gets a little more healthier and Baylor and everyone else continues to grow. Let's see if BYU could stay in the thick of things, or it was just a one-hit wonder because everybody else was so down.
Absolutely. I mean, I was really shocked that BYU had the success that they did this season in the Big 12 in basketball. I mean, if you had to ask me before the season whether BYU football would have more success or BYU basketball would have more success in the first season of the Big 12, I would have said BYU football. I would have never said basketball because they were starting to trend in the wrong direction in the WCC. And then out of nowhere, they go to the Big 12 and they have a great year. I mean, they were one of the better teams in the conference and they got a 6 seed in the tournament, which obviously they choked in the tournament, but still, it's crazy to me that BYU had the season they have. And I agree. And plus, like I said, the religious thing, I mean, Pope and BYU, I mean, they're just really tied together with that. I don't know if it would fit at Kentucky, but we'll see. I don't really think that he would be on the table for the Wildcats. I don't think they would offer it to him. But since you're here, Jackson, I know you don't want NATO. You want NATO staying in Alabama. Totally understand that. I'm hoping he does as well. But who do you think it's going to be? Who do you think that Kentucky's going to get?
Ride or die, Crimson Tide all the way. In all seriousness, though, thinking maybe it could be Scott Drew or someone else in the Big 12. I don't know yet. I hope it's not NATO, but it could be.
I mean, Alabama gave him the contract extension, which I know in this world, though, that means nothing. I know that he could easily leave, Alabama after doing what he just did. Final Four and getting that contract extension, and then he could just go to Kentucky. I get that, but something just tells me he's not going to do it. But It's going to be interesting.
But if
Brian
I'm
Brown,
Kentucky-
another mention of Jay Wright. He says it would be awesome if Jay Wright would come back and go to Kentucky. Like I said, that's not going to happen. It'd be cool. Just definitely isn't going to
True.
happen. Appreciate you for being here, Brian Brown. But what were you going to say, Jackson?
Well, I was going to say that if I'm Kentucky, I'm going to make Jay Wright say no. I'm going to make Billy Donovan say no. Because, I mean, yeah, everybody says no, but wait till you're offered a lot of money. Not
Yeah, I mean,
everybody's
it's
gonna
like
say
Brian Brown just said, Nate Oates is slim unless they pay the $18 million buyout. That's what Tad said as well. That's a lot of money. That's just tough to see. I mean, they don't have to worry about the Calipari buyout, which puts it on the table. Because the same thing with Hurley. I mean, they'd have to deal with that with Hurley as well, and they're going to have to pay a lot of money if they can somehow get him. But it's on the table because you know Kentucky's going to throw a lot of money around. Like Brian Brown said as well, Billy Donovan's possible. That would be awesome. I think there's a chance for that. There is a chance for Billy Donovan. I mean, is it likely? Probably not, but there is a chance for it. And Kentucky's got the money. They can get any of these guys if they'll say yes. I think they can basically get whoever they want. But they have to get these guys to say yes. And the schools that they're at, they're going to do everything they can to keep the coaches that they currently have, especially probably UConn with Dan Hurley. Ron Lowney says LeBron James should go to Kentucky to flop. That's funny. That's a good one.
Oh,
Go ahead, Jack.
yeah, I mean, like LeBron, he'll probably just do his little walk-off.
Oh, man. He probably would. He probably would, though. I mean, LeBron James, there's no way he could coach at Kentucky. I mean, he would have to be at a high school like Penny Hardaway did, or coach like an assistant in the NBA first, which I don't even know if he would. I mean, it wouldn't even make sense for him to, I don't think. Yeah, I appreciate you for being on, Austin. If you got to go, I understand it's getting really late. We're about to get off soon, but the chat's been awesome. We still got 23 people in here. If you are new, like the stream down below and subscribe to the channel if you are new. It really helps out the channel, and really appreciate everybody for being here tonight. I had no idea I was going to be live for 3 hours, but you guys have been the best. Watchdog 33, haven't seen you in here tonight yet in the chat. Appreciate you for stopping by. He says Billy Donovan. I really do hope possibly that it could be him. I would think that would be a cool hire for Kentucky. Is it the best hire? No, but if those other candidates decline, I mean, he'd be an interesting hire. Maybe college games passed him by. Some people have argued that. But if you're going with the college coaches, I would go with like a Brad Underwood. I think that's a good hire if Dan Hurley or Scott Drew do not accept. Brian Brown says Pearl is I really like. Great motivator. What he did for Auburn is outstanding. Auburn was a joke and now has multiple SEC titles in conference tomorrow and a Final Four. That's a good point. Bruce Pearl, another name we haven't mentioned yet. That's insane. Like, we've gone almost 3 hours and we still haven't even mentioned Bruce Pearl. I mean, yeah, he has the baggage, but like with the other names that we've mentioned that also have baggage, we're in an era where maybe baggage doesn't matter because of NIL and the portal. And nobody's getting in trouble for anything.
I mean,
so
the baggage is what? Having a cookout with a recruit and his mama? Like, really? That's the baggage that we should be crying and being upset over? He had a cookout with a recruit. Yeah, no, that doesn't sound like baggage to me. Baggage to me is like covering up dirty business in the back room without consent. That is baggage. That's baggage.
Absolutely, for sure. I mean, it's kind of like, you remember Herm Edwards with Arizona State? Yep. You remember that? Like, he got fired, quote unquote, because during the period where no one could come on campus or whatever, they had recruits on there. You remember that or whatever? And then he got fired. It was like, that was a cover up, it felt like, just to get rid of him because he wasn't winning enough or something like that, which Arizona State's worse now. So, like, what did that even do? It made you worse. So I don't know. Oh my goodness. Ron Lowney with Bob Huggins. He's got Bob Huggins.
Yeah, Bob Huggins has actual baggage. I mean, yelling out, bad slurs on radio shows, and then like drinking and driving, getting into car wrecks, not once, but twice. It's a bad look right there.
Yeah, that's what's bad about it to me is the drunk driving. That was horrible. I mean, you can't do
True.
that twice. We got Dave. Appreciate you for coming on. It's 3 a.m. I can't believe it, but appreciate
I know.
you.
I'm sorry to. I'll try not to keep y'all too long or anything. You guys know a lot about the real candidates, all of the peripheral candidates like a Huggins or Mick Cronin, guys like that. Baggage. You were just getting into that. Huggies. Think about it. These Cronin's coached at Cincinnati and Louisville. Huggins was at Cincinnati and West Virginia. So they're like regional rivals, if you will.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Probably wouldn't be serious candidates. I think that the people, the fans have so much to say down there, and too much, in fact. So the candidates that y'all have on your board are probably the most likely younger guys that I mean, yes, you would think an established name. Donovan is a great choice, I think, if he's not too far removed from the game.
Well, Coach Donovan at the moment is with the Bulls, and they have that 9th seed in the Eastern Conference. So if they get eliminated from their play-in game, and if Kentucky can sit and wait for the Bulls season to end, maybe that can happen. I'd love for it to happen, though. What do you
Me
think,
too.
Jeffrey?
I'm
I
thinking
hope it
from a
happens. I think that if the candidates like Dan Hurley or Scott Drew don't happen, I think that they could possibly wait for Billy Donovan because like Brad Underwood, none of these other guys, like they can wait on them. I mean, they're still going to be available whatever happens. Like they're going to go after those top names first, Hurley and Drew. And if they don't do anything with that, then they might wait. They might wait for Billy Donovan and see what happens with that. And then if not, then they'll go with Brad Underwood or maybe Nate Oates if they can somehow get him. But who knows? I have no idea though.
That's why I think it's going to be an outsider. So none of the assistants, not Kenny Payne, obviously.
Oh man, Kenny Payne, I hate it for Louisville, man. That was so bad. They're going to be better this year.
I wish they'd kept David Paget, and I won't even get into. I remember when the football coach back in 1970, I talked to him about Lee Corso when Corso was coaching Louisville before Indiana and then ESPN. But he wouldn't say anything about Corso. He immediately said, "Wait till you see this kid we got coming in from California," referencing Denny Crum. And I spent years worrying that Crum would someday go back to UCLA because what a dynasty that was. And I know that's it's even really before my time. I just saw the tail end of it with Alcindor and Walt, and into the 70s. But yeah, he started going in the 50s. That was John Wooden. He was great. And where did Wooden go to school? Purdue or something?
I think so.
He was from Indiana, I think. Something like that. He was born here in Louisville, actually, but he was from Indiana. But that's Wooden. So yeah, I've seen a lot of coaching things go on. We at UK they've had Eddie Sutton, and we talked about Huggins a second ago. Coming back to the current times, maybe a little bit of a teetotaler, a drinker, and that could be some of the baggage you might have been referencing, among other things. That's why I like that. I feel like they'll go with one of these younger guys that you're talking about, like Brad Underwood or Scott Drew. The Oates thing and the buyout. Well, they saved what $30 million because Calipari tactfully left and spared them from the
$34 million to be exact.
Yeah,
I mean, that's insane. They just wipe their hands of it. They don't even have to worry about it. Because I actually had a video legit being made about this topic before it was announced that he was going to Arkansas. And I was like, he's not going to go to Arkansas because Arkansas is not going to be able to afford the buyout. And I didn't know that the buyout wasn't actually going to happen at all. Like they were just didn't even have to deal with it. I was like, really? That was crazy to me. So Arkansas is lucky they didn't have to do that, but Kentucky, they're free of Calipari for absolutely nothing. And now they got to get the hire right. But that's crazy because usually you have to pay a buyout every time.
I'll be honest. I think a lot of teams, they're not going to care how much they got to pay to get rid of a guy. I mean, we saw that with Jimbo Fisher in college football. Because I mean, if we're seeing A&M pay out almost $80 million to get rid of a guy, nobody is safe. Not even the top coaches.
They should have never given him that contract extension. Unbelievable.
Just
I mean,
don't
you
hire
didn't give him a
coaches with
contract
Jimbo's
extension. You
agent.
gave him a contract extension of all contract extensions just to get rid of him, and they paid him all that. Crazy.
Got a good agent. I mean, we're in the wrong business. Maybe we should like go be college coaches. Like all three of us just go be college coaches and do a bad job, get fired, make a bunch of money, then invest with it. What do you think, Dave?
I was just looking at that last comment that Kentucky has to get this right. You know, they can't mess around like Louisville did. I mean, it was a hell of a situation that we went through. A heck of a situation. Sorry, young man. But yeah, I mean, from strippers to, what? That was, I lost a title over strippers. Come on. That's not
That
point
title
shaving.
still counts to me. I still count it.
I do too. But so, it's odd. And they drove a good man away. No, a good man. Some didn't like the Karen Cypher thing, the chick on the
NCAA, we consider the 2013 title to be Louisville's. Are you going to wipe the memory from our? Are you going to wipe that memory from our minds or something? Good grief!
No, man, I still see Kevin Ware breaking his leg.
Yeah.
Ouch. But so it's really interesting, stuff, and it's just odd to see this happen to both Louisville and Kentucky at the same time. Two old programs. Kentucky with more titles, of course, but both well known, and we've really fallen from grace. So, I'm honored to be speaking to y'all. You've been given great insight on what's about to happen. Wouldn't it be interesting?
That, Dave.
I do all right in college basketball, but Jeffrey is a genius. He's a genius on college football, college basketball, NFL, and NBA. So, I mean, he's your go-to, man. That is for sure.
I appreciate that, Jackson, and you too, Dave. I love talking about sports, man. I mean, I started the YouTube channel like a year and a half ago, and I mean, it's just something I always wanted to do is just talk sports. And I mean, getting to talk to so many different people. I mean, like, so many people know so much more than I do, but like it helps when you get to talk to those people. And like having Sonny on tonight, and now you coming on, Dave, and talking about what you know about the past with Wood and all that stuff. I mean, I don't want to be old, but like I wish I could have seen all that. Right, be all fly on the wall. Like it's just so great. I love talking sports, but I really appreciate that, guys. Just when you love something, you want to learn everything you can about it. That's just the way it is.
So it's amazing. We're talking about some schools this weekend. Arkansas. It's like I saw Sidney Moncrief hit that half-court shot that put Louisville out of the tournament. I think that was 77. Gene Cady was there at Arkansas, I believe, before he went to Western Kentucky and before he went to Purdue. And so he's still alive, and that's why I'm pulling for Purdue tonight, for Painter to get one for him while he is still alive. But yeah, these guys have been around, and it's a lot of things that are intertwined. Look at Arkansas again. They've got my old football coach, Bobby Petrino, who had also a controversial figure at times because of some things he's done. But Louisville hired him. Yeah. We hired him twice. The first time, and then even after Arkansas and the accident and the check and all that, we hired him again.
Yeah, doing dirty backroom business with the secretary. That is baggage right there.
Well, it's like they had the same thing with
Hugh Freeze behind your wife's back.
Well,
that's a no-no.
Yeah, Hugh Freeze at Ole Miss as well. I mean, that was rough. And then he was at Liberty, now he's at Auburn. So it's like these coaches are getting second chances. I mean, even Rick Pitino got a second chance. Iona, he's even coaching in Europe or whatever, like a Greece team. And then he went to Iona, and then he now at St. John's. And people want him to go back to Kentucky. That would be hilarious. Right. I mean,
exactly. He was in Lexington Saturday back Wednesday, but that was for the horse races at Keeneland. Mm-hmm. So again, it's all quite interesting. It really is amazing. I've been following Pitino since he and Donovan were together at Providence. The story about the young child that he lost back then kind of grabbed my heart, and I've been a fan of his ever since. When they let Denny Crum go, I said, if you're going to do that, the only acceptable replacement is Rick Pitino. And they freaked me out and hired him back in 2000. So, I've seen some amazing shit over the years, in all different sports and stuff. It's a lot of fun. It's very interesting. But your insight is so helpful. I'm telling you, probably going to be one of these young guys on the board. But who knows? I mean, what if they surprise us and just somebody wouldn't? Is there anybody we haven't talked about? You know what I
I
mean?
have no idea. Like, I think we've mentioned like 30 or 40 names. I mean, we've
Exactly.
thrown around
Exactly.
TJ Otzelberger. I mean, Austin brought up Mark Few, which I don't think that's likely, but you never know. I mean, there's
You
just
can't
any
discount
chance it could happen.
It's all a possibility. It really is. You know, so it's pretty amazing. This is quite the thing. Sorry, I was late. I spent about a half an hour with the Arkansas fans. There was about 3,000 of them on a chat that I found. Right as soon as I heard about it, I jumped over here and started looking for stuff. And then I spent the next half an hour with the UK fans, if you will, and listening to all of their opinions on what, and then the coaching possibilities. And then I came to your show, and you were right on that too, is with the coaching possibilities. So it's been a very interesting night, especially if you're a sports fan, and of course, even more so local like me. This is right here at home. It's odd to
for
see.
sure. I really appreciate you coming on, man. I really do. And I mean, it's awesome getting the different perspectives because, like how you said you were listening to Arkansas people talk about it, then Kentucky. And it's like you're going to get a different perspective. Like me, I got no dog in the fight. Like it's unbiased. I'm just like happy like you are. Like, who's it going to be? And I'm like hoping for Arkansas, like that will Calipari break their heart and not win? Like they're not going to get them what they want. Or that he actually going to be able to succeed there. Then who's Kentucky going to get? And I'm just like, I'm excited. Like I usually never do this because I mean, I know that, some of the people that have been in chat, like they've been in here before when I usually do games, but like I usually just go live for the games themselves. Like I do play-by-play a lot, but I usually do not do stuff like this. But when I saw the news, like my brain, I was like, I got to go live for this. Like Calipari, this is like, world change, like college basketball has changed forever right now. It's like the stratosphere has just shifted, and I had to go on. And I asked Will, and he was able to do it. And then all you guys came on tonight. It's been a blast. I mean, the last 3 hours, it feels like it hasn't even been 3 hours. It feels like I've only been on for 10 minutes. It's just been so fun.
Yeah, it's been especially on a Natty Day. What a way to start today. It's shocking news to me, and right here in my backyard, it's kind of fun. So I had to be, of course, tempted to come up and hang out for a minute. I'll drop on out, man. You guys have said so many good things. I know you get tired and probably want to wrap it up anyway. A great night for college sports, that's for sure. We love an interesting story.
Oh, but before you go,
okay.
Do you have like a Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram, all that, Dave?
YouTube, yes, the Dave Brown, the Bourbon Hunter. Yeah, Bourbon Hunter. That's what I do. I don't hunt rabbit. I hunt bourbon. Don't have to go too far. I'm in Kentucky, so I mean, usually right down the road a piece.
Well, definitely everybody go check out Dave's channel over there with the Bourbon Hunter stuff. That's pretty cool. I've seen you before on Traveling Fools channel.
Traveling Fools.
Awesome to talk to, man. I want to go over there again. It's always fun over there, but like the show sometimes end at like 4 a.m. and it's like, well, it's 3:14 right now, but like if I was actually like doing that more often, where I was like calling into a bunch of like late shows, but I was just going to bed way too late. So I've been going to bed earlier, but tonight it's an exception. So I'll try to make sure to, even if I do the game tomorrow night or tonight, it's tonight already, it's up on the like west coast in Alaska, to definitely like try to go to bed earlier, but I had to stay up late tonight. But yes, Jackson found it right there. Everybody go check out Dave's channel for sure. But I do appreciate you coming on, Dave. And I mean,
Let's get you to 500, Davey.
Soon, but it was a lot of fun having you on.
Oh yeah, cool. Guys, we'll see you soon. Let's go Boilermakers. That's just my feeling. But you tell us yours.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really know either way, because I'm like, Purdue, it'll be their first title if they win. But then if you look at, UConn, it will be their sixth. So they'll have more than Indiana. So like Indiana fan, I'm kind of like feeling out what Indiana fans want. And a lot of them want Purdue to get their first, actually, surprisingly. So Indiana fans are not brutal. They don't mind it, actually. They don't want UConn to get their sixth. I don't really care, though. I mean, both teams are great. I'll be happy for both. Matt Painter and Dan Hurley, they've done a great job with these teams. I mean, I picked UConn, so I mean, I guess, I want my pick to be right. But if Purdue wins, I mean, that's cool for Purdue.
It's 80-74, right? UConn.
Yeah, that was my prediction. I got 80 to 74 UConn. Yes, only by 6. And people are telling me I should have had UConn cover.
I'll tell you one thing. It's going to be a great one either way.
Oh, absolutely. Dave Brown, he says the winner gets the job at Kentucky, laughing out loud. That's good. That's funny right there. I mean, hey, you never know. I mean, the winner would be insane if Matt Painter took the job, because we haven't talked about that much, but I think when we did mention it earlier, I said that I believe Matt Painter would stay at, Purdue. I think that he's not going to go to Kentucky. I feel like he's just content at Purdue, but maybe he feels like he'll never get there again. That's a possibility. It could be that he'll never get to another title game at Purdue, because with Edey gone, Purdue doesn't have as much NIL as some of these other schools. He could leave. If they win it all, maybe he feels like I did my job here. I can go to Kentucky. And Dave Brown, he says, or the loser. I mean, it could be the opposite. I mean, you never know. Like, Hurley wins it all, and then UConn, they pay him, and he stays at UConn, and then maybe Matt Painter goes to Kentucky. You never know. So there's just so many different scenarios that possibly could occur. But I do appreciate you again for coming on, Dave Brown. That was a blast. And then you got Tad saying, I liked it, subscribe. Really appreciate that, Tad. It definitely helps out the channel. We're at 2,314 subs, getting closer and closer to 2,500 subs. We're going to keep on making content. Shorts. I try to make something at least every day if possible. I mean, I do miss a day every now and then, but I usually try to make a short or a video or go live at least once every single day, something of the sort. We got content coming out. The portal's going to be going crazy soon, so I have tons of videos on that. Tons of videos on the more of the coaching news going on. If, obviously with whoever Kentucky hires, we'll be talking about that on the channel. We'll be talking about a lot of stuff, but definitely I appreciate that, Tab, for subscribing. If you guys haven't, if there's any viewers that haven't subscribed yet, would really appreciate it if you did to help us get to 2,500. We're trying to continue to move up with subs and try to get more views and engagement. Tonight was a great show. I really appreciate it. There were so many people in here. And that's why, I stayed on for 3 hours and 10 minutes because, for one, it's a lot of fun talking about all this stuff going on. But number two, You guys made it a great show. All you guys in chat, and you guys that came on, Dave, appreciate you as well. Jackson, appreciate Austin and Sonny, and Will. Will was the one that started out the show. He had to leave, but I appreciate all you guys because this made the show awesome. I mean, this show has been fantastic, and I definitely would not be live streaming right now if it wasn't for you guys. You guys have made it a great show, but we'll definitely be wrapping up soon. I guess you have any final thoughts, Jackson? I mean, I hate to get off while there's still people watching, but do you have any final thoughts, man?
Well, we'll say, though, it's going to be fun seeing what happens with Kentucky. It's not the what we know part, it's what we don't know that we're going to have a lot of fun with. I mean, I was like, Arkansas is screwed. They're not going to get Drum Tang. They're not going to get Chris Beard. They're not going to get, oh, whoa, I didn't consider this. John Calipari. Wow.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think with the national championship game, people were excited about it. And people are still excited about it, especially Purdue and UConn fans. They can't wait. But, I feel like for a lot of fan bases, some of them were like, well, I mean, it was kind of expected because both teams, are definitely – a lot of people are saying it, the two best teams this year. They were supposed to be here, which usually that doesn't happen. There's always, one of the teams that you just really weren't expecting. But both teams that a lot of people thought would get there, I had UConn winning it all in my preseason, before the tournament bracket. So – and that obviously was a good pick to make because UConn made it. Purdue, though, I messed up with them. I had them losing in the round of 32. Why did I do that? But it is what it is. But, yeah, I mean, for sure, it's going to be fun. But this news has just invigorated everything because the portal's been kind of dead for a few days. I was waiting to, do some videos on the portal. You had the Musselman news, but I was going to make a video, but I just didn't really have a lot of time. Unfortunately, but then this happened, and it was like I had to come on for this.
I'll be honest, where it's I thought for Monday night it's just gonna be college basketball recap show. Well, no, I just do national title way too early, top 25. That's it. We go bed. Nope, Calipari's gonna keep us late. I'm sure for Monday night.
I mean, it was so crazy. I can't believe. How it unfolded, because normally when you have rumors and stuff, it takes a couple of days. Usually, oh man, this guy's his candidacy, it looks like he's going to get the job. It looks like they're targeting him. And then like 2-3 days later, oh, he's hired. Nope, that's not what happened here. Literally, it went from Calipari, oh, it looks like they're zeroing in on him. Is he actually going to go to Arkansas? And all the Arkansas fans were saying, it's a done deal. He's going there. And I'm like, are they sure? Are they just saying it? It's a false hope? And it's like, nope. He's got a 5-year deal. And I mean, like I said, I already had a video made. It was insane. Like, I thought it was just rumors. It wasn't going to happen. I didn't think it was going to happen. And then Pete Thamel, whenever Pete Thamel or one of those guys at ESPN says that it's a done deal, it's a done deal. And I'm like, oh my goodness. And people are going crazy. I was seeing like people like YouTube and Twitter, like all over the place. People were just popping up. Arkansas, Calipari. And I'm like, it's legit. And I'm like, I got to go live for this. I had to go live for this. So, I mean, like I said, you guys were awesome. I really appreciate you guys coming in because you made this show awesome. And it was amazing. Brian Brown's is actually communicating with your chat truly helped. Oh, I appreciate that, Brian. I definitely like to engage with the chat. A lot of people don't. And I know that like some channels, like they have so many viewers and so many comments that come in, you can't read them all. But I do try to read as many as possible. And I really do because of that. You guys, I mean, if you guys weren't here, I mean, the show wouldn't be the same. I mean, I could be saying the same stuff, you know, talking to myself or just me and Jackson or me and Will talking. But you guys make the show what it is. I mean, the chat is like the best part of a live stream. I mean, I've been doing it for years. I love being in the chat and talking to people and having you guys in chat. I mean, it makes the show like there's different things to talk about. There's cool stuff. It's just awesome. And then Dave coming on, getting to engage. Like it's great stuff. I really appreciate you guys. Tad said, how about this? We go forever with no 16 seed ever beating a 1 seed and then Virginia and Purdue, and they both could then win it all next year. Crazy. That's what's unbelievable. I mean, you got the storyline with Purdue losing to a 16 seed, just like Virginia did, and then they could possibly win it all the next year, just like Virginia did, or UConn could be the first team to win back-to-back titles since Florida, which it means so either way you go, something that is highly improbable is going to happen tonight, and it's absolutely crazy. And something else that was highly improbable, Calipari leaving for a lesser job, also came to pass because he went to Arkansas. I mean, it's crazy. Like, anything's on the table these days. Like Austin said, we could be candidates for the job. You never know.
Yeah. I mean, you know, we'll probably be like the 40th people on that list, but that's it. But
oh yeah, I mean, I was being a little generous. I'd say maybe we're like barely in like hundredths or something like that. Maybe barely in the top 1,000. But hey, 40th isn't bad. 1 out of 40, roll a dice. Maybe it'll be us. But nah, that's not how they're gonna do it. But that's hilarious. But yes, I mean, it's gonna be crazy stuff. Like I said, I'm definitely gonna be covering all this stuff in the coming days. Whenever the next coach like is hired, maybe I'll go live for it like I just did. Since I mean, this was a fantastic show, or maybe I'll make a video on it. It definitely depends on when that happens. But I'm going to be keeping an eye on this Kentucky open job because it's a big job. It is one of the biggest jobs in college basketball. And like somebody said earlier in chat, Kentucky has to get this job right, has to hire the right coach, because you don't want to start declining like a lot of other programs have that have hired wrong coaches, like Nebraska or Indiana, Nebraska football, Indiana basketball, or Tennessee women's basketball. They just start to decline because you hire the wrong people, or you just don't get the right culture in there, and then it just all fades apart. All that was built up, it all crumbles. So Kentucky at a crossroads has to get this hire right, and they got the deep pockets, they got the money to do it. It's going to be interesting. Tad says, how about this? The last coach to go back to back and the one who could do it tonight could be both candidates for Kentucky job. Yeah, that's what Dave said earlier as well, Tad. You're right. I mean, that's what's crazy. I mean, they both legitimately could. I think Dan Hurley's more likely, but that's insane. I mean, and that's going to be the talking point. I'm telling you, man, tonight, people are going to be talking about this instead of the game half the time. It's insane. That's how big of a job this is. And with just Calipari leaving it all. So I'm geared up for it. I can't wait for the national championship tonight. It's going to be a lot of fun. Now you got the added stuff with the coaching news and the portal as well. It's going to be cranking back up. It's going to be so fun. Kenosha said, do you think Brad will be at Illinois in 5 years? Appreciate you being here, Kenosha. Another commenter coming in, keeping us on at 3:25 a.m. Appreciate the comment, Kenosha. But to answer your question, I will say that Brad Underwood is a possibility for this job. Like we've mentioned tonight, I think he's a possibility to take the Kentucky job. So if he is, he won't be at Illinois in 5 years. But if he doesn't take the Kentucky job, then I think, and if it's like Nate Oates. If Nate Oates gets the Kentucky job and then the Alabama's job open and he doesn't take that job either, I think he'll stay at Illinois. I don't think he'll get fired. I think he's going to continue to do well there, but maybe he's peaked. I'm not sure. Maybe he will not be able to improve on what he's done. I have no idea. But I do believe overall that if Brad Underwood does not take any of the jobs that are going to be open up with this coaching carousel right here with Kentucky, then I think that he'll stay at Illinois. It makes sense for him to stay at Illinois because he's done well there. He is getting a little bit older, so it's going to be interesting with that. But it's a great question for sure. I think definitely you're safe with Brad Underwood if he doesn't move right now. Tate Brown already projecting. He says Hurley back-to-back at 2 schools. I mean, that'd be crazy. If he could do it at UConn and then he could go to Kentucky and win back-to-back. Obviously, Kentucky fans they'd love Dan Hurley if he could do that. But to win back-to-back at 2 schools, I mean, people would be crowning him the greatest coach ever in college basketball. Which, it'd be tough to do that because of Wood winning all the titles that he has. But in the modern era, it's different than back then because there wasn't as many teams in the tournament. There weren't as many good teams back then. So, yeah, Hurley would have that argument if he could do that. But he's got to win tonight first before that. But that's hilarious, Dave Brown. Kenosha, hypothetically, if Brad leaves, who are some candidates for the Illinois job? Well, that's something we haven't talked about tonight is candidates for the Illinois job if he does leave. That's interesting. I haven't really thought about that. You could take somebody like TJ Otzelberger maybe at Iowa State because that's, in the vicinity. That's a possibility. And I don't think a leap from Iowa State to Illinois would be as much as Iowa State to Kentucky. Like, he's on the list for the Kentucky job, but he's not going to get it. So it could be TJ Otzelberger. Do you have any other candidates for the Illinois job, Jackson, that you can think of?
Jerome Tang at Kansas State.
Jerome Tang, that's a good one. Him and Otzelberger are very possible for sure. But yeah, other than that, there's going to be other names for sure. I don't think Chris Beard wouldn't leave Ole Miss for
Wes Moore, Cincinnati. Maybe that's one.
Yeah, it's a possibility. I could see it. So Illinois is a good job. It's not a top 10 job in college basketball, but it's a good job. It's top 25, top 20 maybe. And it's gotten better with Underwood. Obviously with Bill Self and, some of the other coaches they've had success. So, it'll be a good job. It would attract names, and probably if you could get somebody like an Otzelberger that's up and coming, that would be a good hire. But hopefully for Illinois, it would probably be best if Brad Underwood stayed, but we'll have to see. Taz, the Kentucky women's team just got a new coach as well, Kenny Brooks. Mitch Nell, the hire, now he has to go 2 for 2. Yeah, for sure. Kenny Brooks, I think he was at Virginia Tech. I don't usually follow women's basketball as much, but women's basketball is exploding. And everybody's talking with the Caitlin Clark and how she has changed women's basketball forever. With the way she shoots the basketball over the floor like Steph Curry, it's unbelievable. And people are paying attention to women's basketball. So I have been paying a little bit more attention to it for sure. And yes, Kenny Brooks was good at Virginia Tech. So I think he would do well at Kentucky women's basketball. So, yeah, Kentucky, if they could go 2 for 2, get Dan Hurley, that'd be unbelievable. So, it's going to be really interesting. But I can't wait, like I said, for the national championship game, and I cannot wait to see what's going to happen with the coaching search. I like to go live even longer, but it is getting really late. But I really do appreciate you guys for being here. You made this show a blast, and I definitely will do some more live streams in the future on big news as well as play-by-play for big games. We'll be probably doing NBA playoffs, play-by-plays. I might go live tonight for the championship game. Not 100% sure since it was so late, but we'll definitely see. But I appreciate everybody for being here. Like the stream down below. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. Share the stream out on social media. But most importantly, thank you guys so much for being here tonight. You made the show a blast. Thanks, Tad. Great job. Well done. Appreciate that, Tad. Planetary Healer says, thank you. Kenosha said, good stream sub. Appreciate the subs. We had a fantastic showing with subs tonight. Appreciate it. We're marching on to 2,500 all because of you guys. You guys are the best. Ron says, thanks as well. Appreciate it, guys. Hope to see you again in a future stream, but I really do appreciate you guys for being here. Thanks for the super chats as well, and we'll definitely see you guys soon. Dave Brown says, rock on. Appreciate it, Dave Brown. Can't wait for the championship game night. And thanks, Jackson, for coming on as well. Thanks for being here, everybody.